Along the winding rivers of Mississippi, the water flows silently, carrying secrets of the past. Some hotels sit by the banks, beautiful and welcoming by day, but at night, the walls themselves seem alive. Guests have reported whispers in empty corridors, footsteps echoing behind closed doors, and shadows moving across the hallways. Lanterns flicker without explanation, and some visitors wake to find chairs rearranged or mirrors fogged with unseen faces. Tonight, we will explore the most haunted riverside hotels in Mississippi, where whispers cling to the walls, and the past never truly sleeps. Are you brave enough to stay the night? Hello, dear friend. I hope you are feeling calm and cozy tonight, as we venture into the eerie, haunted riverside hotels of Mississippi together. These hotels are not only historic, they are vessels of stories, some tragic, some terrifying. Ghosts linger in hallways, in lobbies, and in rooms, making every shadow seem alive. The Mississippi River flows nearby, reflecting moonlight across hotel windows. Some guests hear whispers coming from the walls, as if the buildings themselves are trying to speak. Some feel icy touches even when alone. And a few wake to find footprints that appear and vanish mysteriously. Before we begin exploring these haunted hotels, I have a question for you. If you checked into a hotel and heard a voice whispering your name from the walls, would you stay the night or run as fast as you could? I would love to read your answer in the comments. Take a deep breath. Relax, and let the shadows of Mississippi's riverside hotels draw you into their stories. Riverbend Inn sits quietly along the curve of a winding river, its stone walls and wooden beams weathered by decades of seasons. By day, it exudes the charm of a historic retreat, with ivy climbing the exterior and sunlight reflecting off the water. But as night falls, the inn takes on a presence far different from its daytime appearance. The atmosphere becomes charged with a subtle tension, as if the building itself holds memories it cannot release. Guests staying in Riverbend Inn often notice a quiet shift after dark. The hallways seem longer, the corners darker, and the air cooler than expected. The hallways seem longer, the corners darker, and the air cooler than expected. It begins with faint sounds, soft whispers that drift along the walls and echo down corridors. The voices are unintelligible at first, mere murmurs in the distance. Yet they carry a cadence and rhythm that suggest intention, as though the building is attempting to communicate with those who walk its floors. The voices are unintelligible at first, mere murmurs in the distance. Yet they carry a cadence and rhythm that suggest intention, as though the building is attempting to communicate with those who walk its floors. Movement is often reported in rooms long after guests have settled. Chairs may be slightly shifted, tables realigned, or candles flickering without a breeze. There is no sign of intrusion, no evidence of human presence, yet the subtle changes leave observers aware that they are not alone. These phenomena are never aggressive, but they convey a presence attentive to every step, every movement, and every whispered thought. The river outside contributes to the inn's otherworldly ambience. Its waters are never still, always flowing with a gentle murmur that blends with the whispers within. Guests describe moments where the sound of the river seems to echo the voices in the hallways, creating a seamless connection between the natural world and the mysterious activity inside the building. The effect is hypnotic, drawing attention outward while simultaneously focusing awareness inward. Hallways and staircases play a central role in the inn's subtle hauntings. The wood underfoot creaks with peculiar timing, sometimes in harmony with the whispers and other times offset, creating an impression of presence moving unseen. Doorways frame shadows that shift at the edges of vision, appearing and disappearing with each glance. Observers often feel the sensation of being watched, yet when they turn fully, the space is empty, leaving only a lingering awareness of unseen eyes. Rooms maintain a quiet intimacy that contrasts with the broader hallways. Here, the whispers sometimes seem closer, brushing against the ears like a soft breeze. Guests report hearing names, phrases, or gentle exclamations that vanish as attention is focused. Furniture, while mostly static, occasionally responds with subtle movements, as if acknowledging the presence of those who occupy the space. Candles may flare briefly or dim, reinforcing the feeling that the inn is alive to the nuances of attention and presence. The inn's exterior environment enhances its mystique. Fog often drifts along the water at night, curling into the windows and softening the outlines of the building. This interaction of natural elements with the inn's architecture blurs boundaries, creating an immersive atmosphere that engages sight, sound, and intuition simultaneously. Visitors often experience a sensation of temporal distortion. Minutes may stretch, hours feel shorter, and repetitive sounds create a rhythm that is difficult to place. The combination of whispers, subtle movements, and the Rivera's persistent murmur fosters a sense of being in a space outside conventional perception. Every glance, every sound, and every shift in the environment contributes to a cohesive narrative of presence, memory, and attention. Despite the subtle unease, Riverbend Inn remains a place of quiet fascination rather than fear. The experiences are immersive and contemplative, encouraging visitors to observe closely, to attune to nuances, and to reflect on the interplay between the seen and unseen. The whispers and movements serve as reminders that spaces carry histories, emotions, and echoes that are felt as much as they are observed. By morning, much of the night's activity subsides. Candles burn steadily, furniture returns to stillness, and the river flows gently without notable fluctuation. Yet the memory of the previous night lingers, etched into the minds of those who stayed. Guests leave with the sense that Riverbend Inn continues to listen, respond, and observe long after they depart, preserving the delicate balance between natural beauty and the mysteries that dwell within its walls. Riverbend Inn is more than a historic retreat along a river. It is a place where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist, where whispers and subtle movements invite contemplation, and where the natural and built environment blend to create an immersive experience. Travelers leave with the impression that the inn holds stories, presence, and echoes that extend beyond the physical. A testament to the enduring allure of spaces that remember, respond, and silently witness all who enter. Willow Creek Hotel stands at the edge of a quiet town, its weathered brick walls and wrought iron balconies hinting at a past both grand and sorrowful. The hotel's corridors stretch long and dimly lit, their plush carpets worn and faded, echoing footsteps in ways that seem to amplify every sound. Visitors often describe a feeling of being watched, a subtle energy that shifts with the passing of each hour. A subtle energy that shifts with the passing of each hour. Guests speak of a woman in white, appearing unexpectedly along the hallways. Her figure is often glimpsed in mirrors, a fleeting reflection that vanishes when approached. The moments are brief yet unforgettable, leaving those who witness them with a mixture of awe and unease. Her presence is quiet, almost mournful, as if she is bound to the hotel by memories that cannot be left behind. The air in Willow Creek Hotel carries whispers, soft voices that weave through empty rooms and shadowed hallways. They speak of lost love, of lives interrupted, and of tragedies that time has failed to erase. Travelers report hearing these whispers during moments of stillness, when the hum of modern life fades and the hotel's history asserts itself. The voices are never threatening, yet they convey emotion so profoundly that those who hear them feel drawn into the past, connected to events long gone yet lingering in memory. Each room tells its own story. Windows catch the light at angles that make shadows dance. Chandeliers sway slightly as though stirred by an unseen hand. Furniture retains the elegance of eras past, with faded upholstery and polished surfaces that reflect the dim glow of lamps. Hallways are lined with portraits and photographs, their subjects frozen in time, their eyes seeming to follow visitors as they move. The combination of architecture, decor, and atmosphere creates a space that feels simultaneously welcoming and otherworldly. Many travelers attempt to document their experiences within the hotel. Cameras capture faint figures and reflections, shadowed movements that do not correspond to any living guest, and subtle changes in lighting that cannot be explained by normal sources. Cameras capture faint figures and reflections, shadowed movements that do not correspond to any living guest, and subtle changes in lighting that cannot be explained by normal sources. Cameras capture faint figures and reflections, shadowed movements that do not correspond to any living guest, and subtle changes in lighting that cannot be explained by normal sources. Cameras capture faint figures and reflections, shadowed movements that do not correspond to any living guest, and subtle changes in lighting that cannot be explained by normal sources. Audio equipment records whispers, sometimes coherent, sometimes fragmented, echoing in spaces that appear empty. Audio equipment records whispers, sometimes coherent, sometimes fragmented, echoing in spaces that appear empty. Audio equipment records whispers, sometimes coherent, sometimes fragmented, echoing in spaces that appear empty. These phenomena add to the sense that the hotel is alive in ways beyond ordinary understanding, preserving fragments of human emotion and experience in every corridor, room, and hallway. These phenomena add to the sense that the hotel is alive in ways beyond ordinary understanding, preserving fragments of human emotion and experience in every corridor, room, and hallway. These phenomena add to the sense that the hotel is alive in ways beyond ordinary understanding, preserving fragments of human emotion and experience in every corridor, room, and hallway. The story of the woman in white is intertwined with the hotel's past. Guests and staff alike recount that she may have been someone who waited for a loved one who never returned. A figure suspended between grief and longing. A sense of empathy, a connection to a moment of heartbreak that transcends time. Her appearance is gentle, never malicious, yet profoundly affecting. Even when the hotel is quiet, it feels inhabited. Footsteps echo on upper floors. Doors creak softly. And shadows move in ways that defy explanation. The longer a visitor stays, the more the building seems to reveal itself. The stories of its past unfolding in subtle details. A photograph slightly askew. A curtain shifting despite still air. The faint scent of perfume lingering in a hallway. The experience is immersive, demanding attention and reflection. Offering both mystery and emotional resonance. Willow Creek Hotel also challenges perception. Rooms may feel larger or smaller than expected, corridors appear longer, and familiar spaces sometimes seem rearranged upon a return visit. Guests describe moments of disorientation, a feeling that the hotel is subtly alive, reshaping itself according to its own rhythm. It is a place where history and memory occupy the same space, and where the present blends seamlessly with echoes of the past. At night, the hotel takes on an even more spectral quality. Lamps cast soft halos of light along the hallways, and shadows deepen in corners and beneath staircases. The woman in white may appear at the edge of a corridor, her figure shimmering with the dim glow, before fading into the distance. Whispers become more pronounced, threads of conversation that seem to extend across decades. The stillness is profound, punctuated only by the soft sounds of the building settling and the occasional distant echo of footsteps not made by any living guest. Visitors leave Willow Creek Hotel with lasting impressions. They carry the memory of corridors that stretch beyond expectation. Reflections that hold more than simple images. And whispers that linger in thought long after departure. The woman in white, with her silent presence and tragic elegance, remains an emblem of the hotel itself, a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. Where stories are preserved in shadow and light. And where human emotion resonates in the very walls. Willow Creek Hotel exists as a space suspended between time and memory. Every step along its corridors, every glance into a mirror, every whispered fragment contributes to a narrative that is felt as much as it is observed. It is a place where history, sorrow, and beauty coexist, offering travelers an encounter that is at once mysterious, poignant, and unforgettable. Those who enter understand that the hotel is not merely a building, but a keeper of stories, a witness to love and loss, and a reminder that some presences endure long after life itself has moved on. Cypress Bay Lodge stands on the edge of a dense forest, its timbered walls and wide verandas facing the still waters of a hidden cove. By day, it appears as a serene retreat, a place where visitors can escape the world and breathe in the scent of pine and saltwater. Yet as night descends, the lodge transforms into something far more enigmatic. Shadows stretch along the corridors, and the gentle creak of floorboards takes on a life of its own. At midnight, footsteps echo through the hallways. They pace steadily, deliberate and persistent, yet when anyone ventures out to investigate, the halls are empty. The sound moves from room to room, passing through walls and corners as if the lodge itself is alive, tracing patterns known only to it. Visitors often describe a rising sense of tension mixed with fascination, a feeling that every corner of the lodge has a story to tell, even if it cannot speak. Doors slam with no wind to move them. They burst open briefly and close again, leaving only the echo and a faint tremor in the wood. The sound is sharp and sudden, startling in the quiet of night. Yet the lodge remains otherwise still. Furniture is undisturbed. The windows show nothing outside. And yet there is no mistaking the movement. Guests report moments of awareness. A sense of being observed, though no one is there to witness them. The architecture of Cypress Bay Lodge contributes to its otherworldly presence. High ceilings and long hallways amplify every sound, while long hallways seem to shift in perception as one ascends or descends. Light from the moon filters through tall windows, casting beams across the polished floors, and illuminating the subtle motion of curtains swaying even when the air is still. Every detail is heightened by the isolation of the lodge, creating a delicate balance between beauty and unease. The hallways themselves appear to guide the footsteps, bending perception and influencing the mind. Guests often sense movement behind them, yet when they turn, no one is there. Reflections in mirrors can seem delayed, showing fleeting images of figures just outside the field of vision. It is a place where ordinary senses are challenged, where the unseen becomes tangible, and where the mind is forced to confront the mystery of what is present but cannot be touched. Some visitors report the feeling of a presence entering their rooms. A cold draft brushes against their skin. A chair shifts slightly, or the soft murmur of breathing seems to echo from an empty corner. The combination of ambient sounds, shifting shadows, and the occasional slam of a door creates a narrative of constant, subtle activity. Cypress Bay Lodge is filled with history, though much of it is unknown. Old photographs line the hallways, showing past guests and staff whose faces appear to follow Oni's gaze. The timbered floors carry echoes of footsteps from decades past, and every polished surface seems to retain a faint memory of life long gone. It is as if the lodge itself archives moments, preserving them in sound, shadow, and movement, sharing fragments with those who pause long enough to notice. At night, the sounds are amplified by the isolation. The ticking of clocks takes on an irregular rhythm. Footsteps repeat patterns across hallways, and the faint scraping of furniture hints at activity in rooms that are otherwise empty. Even the wind seems directed, moving through gaps and cracks in the structure with purpose, carrying whispers of past conversations and laughter. The experience is immersive, enveloping visitors in a world where time and perception feel fluid. The lodge's upper floors hold the most activity. Rooms once occupied by long-forgotten guests are reported to have subtle disturbances. Lights flicker, shadows move along walls, and the faint scent of perfume or pipe smoke lingers in the air. Guests recount moments of hesitation, a feeling that someone or something is present just beyond perception. The combination of history, architecture, and unexplained phenomena creates an atmosphere that is both haunting and compelling. Despite the unsettling occurrences, Cypress Bay Lodge is not a place of fear. Its presence is persistent, deliberate, and enigmatic, yet it invites curiosity and observation. Visitors are drawn to explore its hallways, linger near windows, and listen intently for the whispers of unseen footsteps. Each encounter adds to the lodge's story, a narrative built from the interplay of human presence and subtle supernatural activity. By morning, the lodge resumes its tranquil appearance. The hallways are silent, doors remain closed, and the shadows retreat with the rising sun. Yet the memory of midnight activity lingers, etched into the minds of those who stayed awake to experience it. The faint echoes of footsteps, the soft slam of doors, and the brush of unseen hands ensure that Cypress Bay Lodge remains a place suspended between ordinary reality and something just beyond perception. Cypress Bay Lodge endures as a retreat and a mystery, a building that preserves fragments of its past in motion, sound, and sensation. Every hallway, every room, and every shadow contributes to the story of a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist. Visitors leave carrying the impression of a living history, a reminder that some spaces retain life long after their human occupants have departed, and that the midnight hours hold secrets waiting to be discovered by those willing to listen and observe. Mosswood Riverside stands at the edge of a slow, winding river. Narrowed among towering trees whose branches sway gently even in the absence of wind. The building is old, its stone walls weathered and cloaked in ivy. And its windows seem to hold secrets rather than reflections. At night, the air grows thick with an uneasy stillness. As if the world itself pauses to listen. Guests report that windows fog up even on warm evenings, revealing shapes that resemble faces pressed against the glass. The features are indistinct, shifting with the condensation, yet unmistakably human. Observers feel the weight of unseen eyes staring back, a silent presence that both unsettles and captivates. The effect is subtle at first, a hint of movement in the corner of vision, before becoming undeniably clear. Inside, the halls carry their own echoes. Soft laughter drifts down empty staircases, delicate and fleeting, vanishing before its source can be determined. Sometimes it is a Childa-esque giggle. Other times a deeper, melodic murmur that seems to linger longer in the air. Each sound is gentle, never aggressive, yet it amplifies the sense that Mosswood Riverside is alive with memories. Aware of every step taken within its walls. The river outside is a constant companion, its surface deceptively still. Guests note that during these moments of whispered sounds, the water seems almost frozen, reflecting the night sky without ripple or movement. Shadows of trees and lanterns bend in the glassy surface, merging with fog rising from the banks. The combination of water and mist creates an impression of the world suspended between reality and dream, a place where ordinary rules do not fully apply. Lanterns hang from wrought iron brackets and branches alike, casting pools of warm light that illuminate cobblestone pathways and moss-covered bridges. Their glow shifts subtly with the fog, creating a sense of motion even when all is still. Observers often feel drawn along the paths by the lantern's soft luminescence, compelled to explore further while sensing that the house and river are quietly observing each movement. Rooms within Mosswood Riverside appear to contain echoes of the past. Furniture is worn but impeccably maintained, as if anticipating visitors who may never arrive. Mirrors reflect moments that are not the present, capturing glimpses of figures that vanish when attention focuses on them. Footsteps appear on the stairs and floors, though no one is present, and the faint creak of doors opening or closing often accompanies these spectral movements. The air is dense with the scent of wood, damp stone, and the river itself mingles with the fog drifting in through slightly ajar windows, enhancing the sensation that the building is a living entity, breathing slowly, observing quietly. Guests report a heightened sensitivity to sound and light, noticing subtle shifts in shadow, the glimmer of reflection, and the delicate ripple of the river as though it responds to unseen forces. Night amplifies the atmosphere of Mosswood Riverside. The mist thickens along the riverbank, curling around the foundations and slowly advancing into the gardens. Trees sway and twist, casting shifting patterns against walls and windows. Lanterns glow brighter in the haze, illuminating pathways that seem to shift slightly when revisited. Every glance down a corridor, every step on the stairs, feels as though it is guided by an unseen hand, shaping perception and experience with quiet precision. Whispers and laughter continue to thread through the halls and across the river. They are never consistent, never direct, but always present. Guests find themselves turning corners or peering into shadows, half expecting to discover their source, yet always finding the spaces empty. The effect is mesmerizing, a delicate balance of curiosity and unease that makes every moment feel significant. The river itself sometimes acts as a mirror to the unseen. Faces can be glimpsed within its reflection, fleeting and ever-changing. Mirroring the windows above. Ripples spread across the surface without obvious cause. And occasional glimmers of light seem to originate below the waterline. Travelers note the contrast between the Riviera's apparent calm and the activity implied by these subtle phenomena. An uncanny stillness that heightens awareness of the surrounding environment. Every corner of Mosswood Riverside holds secrets. Doors may appear where none existed, hallways extend further than the architecture should allow. And rooms seem to subtly rearrange themselves between visits. Observers experience a disorienting sense of continuity and change simultaneously. As though the house is both preserving memory and creating it anew with every visitor. Despite the unease, there is a quiet beauty to Mosswood Riverside. The fog, lanterns, and river combine to create a cinematic tableau. Where every sound, reflection, and shadow is part of an orchestrated experience. Guests feel a connection to the space. A recognition that it exists outside ordinary time. Where moments stretch and compress. And the past and present intermingle in subtle, haunting ways. When dawn approaches, the mist begins to recede, lifting slowly from the river and gardens. Lanterns dim and fade, leaving the stonework, ivy, and flowing water bathed in the soft, neutral light of morning. Windows appear ordinary once more, though the memory of ghostly faces lingers. Guests depart carrying an impression of a place where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist, where time is fluid, and where the river, fog, and laughter leave an indelible mark on memory. Mosswood Riverside endures as a space of quiet mystery. Its fogged windows, floating lanterns, echoing laughter, and unnaturally still river combine to form an environment that challenges perception and invites reflection. Visitors leave with stories of subtle wonders and untraceable presences, aware that some places are not meant to be fully understood, but felt, observed, and remembered in the interplay of light, shadow, and whispering waters. Twilight Harbor Hotel stands at the edge of a river that glimmers under the fading light of dusk. Its stone FAA section and tall windows reflect the water's surface, hinting at the elegance of a bygone era. By day, the hotel appears serene, a haven for travelers seeking comfort and quiet. Yet as night falls, the atmosphere shifts, and the building seems to awaken in subtle, unsettling ways. Guests first notice the flickering lights in the lobby. Chandeliers dim and brighten intermittently, casting shadows that stretch across the polished floors. The effect is hypnotic, drawing attention to corners that seem darker than they should be. The gentle hum of electricity blends with the faint creaking of the building, creating a soundscape that is both familiar and unnervingly alive. It is as though the hotel itself is breathing, aware of the people moving through its spaces. Cold spots appear near the large windows overlooking the river. Visitors report sudden chills that rise from the floor and brush against their skin. Even when the heating system is functioning normally, the temperature drops inexplicably. The effect is subtle yet tangible, causing unease and curiosity in equal measure. It is as if the river outside channels its own memory into the hotel, a whisper of the past carried on the wind. Whispers emerge from the walls themselves, soft and fragmented. They mimic the cadence of conversations held decades ago, repeating phrases with uncanny accuracy. Sometimes they seem to respond to the movements of the guests, rising when footsteps approach and fading when attention turns elsewhere. The voices are never threatening, but their presence is impossible to ignore. They form an ambient dialogue that blends past and present, a connection between the hotel's history and those who enter its doors today. The corridors amplify the hotel's peculiar energy. Wooden floors creak beneath light footsteps, echoing through hallways that curve unexpectedly. Shadows gather in corners and around doorframes, appearing to shift and stretch with the flicker of the lights. Doors may move slightly, opening or closing without discernible cause, their subtle motion reinforcing the sense of a living space that responds to observation. Guests feel both watched and accompanied, a presence that is attentive but intangible. Rooms maintain a quiet intimacy that contrasts with the lobby's broader activity. Furniture is arranged with care, yet objects sometimes change position overnight. A chair may be slightly angled differently, a cup moved on the bedside table, or curtains shifted by a breeze that never passes through the window. Guests often awaken to the sensation that the room has breathed around them, that it has adjusted itself while they slept. Every movement is subtle, deliberate, and unnerving in its precision. The river outside seems to communicate alongside the whispers. Its waters lap gently against the harbor, producing a rhythm that aligns with the flickering lights and the murmured voices. The reflection of moonlight shimmers on the glass, intertwining with the shadows inside. Guests report moments when the outside world and the interior phenomena blend, creating a seamless, immersive experience that blurs the boundary between what is seen and what is felt. Time in Twilight Harbor Hotel often feels distorted. Minutes stretch and contract, and familiar spaces appear slightly altered from one night to the next. The whispers, the shadows, and the flickering lights create a layered perception where past events linger alongside present observations. Guests describe a sense of copyright déjà vu, moments that repeat with minor variations, as if the hotel itself is caught in cycles of memory and observation. Despite the eerie phenomena, the hotel exudes a quiet dignity. The presence within the walls is not malevolent, but attentive and reflective. A repository of countless stories and interactions that occurred over decades. The building's energy engages the imagination. Visitors are left with a profound sense of history alive in subtle, sensory ways. By dawn, the flickering lights stabilize, the cold spots dissipate, and the whispers fade into silence. The river returns to its gentle, natural rhythm. And the whispers fade into silence. And the memory of the night lingers, carried by the guests long after they depart. Twilight Harbor Hotel is a place where history, presence, and environment converge, preserving a living narrative within its walls that continues to engage those who enter. Twilight Harbor Hotel is more than a lodging near a river. It is a space where echoes of the past persist in whispers, shadows, and subtle movements, creating an immersive, contemplative experience. Guests leave with the awareness that the building remembers, responds, and quietly observes. A testament to the enduring presence of memory and the unseen forces that dwell in spaces shaped by time. River's Edge Inn stands quietly on the bank of a winding river, its weathered FAA section Ade reflecting decades of history and a lingering sense of mystery. The inn is surrounded by tall reeds and willows that sway in the breeze, their shadows stretching across the water at dusk. The gentle murmur of the river is a constant companion, its surface reflecting the sky and trees, yet at night, those reflections shift in ways that unsettle even the most composed visitor. Guests often wake to discover subtle changes in their surroundings. Chairs are pulled slightly away from tables, belongings shifted just enough to suggest movement without explanation. Travelers describe an atmosphere that is both inviting and quietly unsettling, where normality and the inexplicable coexist. The inn seems alive in its own way, responding to the presence of those who stay within its walls. Throughout the inn, faint music drifts from empty rooms. The source is never clear, and the melodies are soft, almost imperceptible, carried along corridors and across stairwells. Guests report hearing piano notes or distant strings, melodies that seem to evoke memories and emotions long forgotten. The music adds another layer to the inn's mysterious character, blending beauty with an eerie awareness of unseen presences. Even those who do not consciously listen feel the vibrations in the air, a subtle suggestion that the inn is full of echoes. The river itself contributes to the enigmatic atmosphere. In daylight, it appears serene, reflecting the sky and surrounding trees with perfect clarity. At night, however, the surface seems to shift independently, forming shapes and patterns that do not correspond to any reflection from the real world. Travelers speak of fleeting figures gliding across the water, shapes that vanish when approached or closely observed. The Rivera's edge becomes a place of contemplation and unease, a threshold between the ordinary and the strange. The architecture of Riverside Inn is a mix of old-world charm and subtle decay. Wooden beams darkened with age support ceilings that creak gently with the passage of time. Hallways are lined with portraits and photographs, the subjects frozen in mid-expression, their eyes appearing to follow anyone who moves past. Windows are framed with curtains that sway without breeze. And the floors carry faint echoes of footsteps not belonging to any living guest. Each detail of the inn contributes to a sense of living history, where the line between past and present is blurred. Many visitors describe experiences that defy conventional explanation. Lights flicker in empty hallways, doors close with quiet insistence. And shadows shift along walls even when no source of illumination is present. Some guests have recorded faint voices or murmurs, indistinct yet emotionally charged, echoing through rooms that appear empty. Adding to the inn's reputation as a place where the ordinary rules of perception are challenged. Despite the unsettling qualities, Riverside Inn retains a welcoming aspect. The atmosphere is never overtly threatening, it is instead a space of quiet observation and subtle intrigue. Guests report feeling a connection to the building, a sense that it preserves the lives, memories, and emotions of those who once visited or dwelled there. The inn's enigmatic presence invites attention, reflection, and a cautious curiosity, rewarding those who move carefully and notice its smallest details. The evenings at the inn are particularly captivating. As the sun sets, the river darkens. And the shadows along the banks lengthen. And the music drifts more distinctly from unseen rooms. And the subtle movements of furniture or objects become more noticeable. Figures are sometimes glimpsed through doorways or reflected in mirrors, only to disappear when approached. The combination of water, light, and shadow creates an immersive experience. A place where reality and perception blend seamlessly. The history of Riverside Inn is woven into its very walls. Generations of visitors, travelers, and local families have passed through, each leaving traces of their presence. Stories of love, loss, and quiet celebration echo faintly through the corridors, creating a sense that the inn remembers and responds to those who enter. Every creak of a floorboard, every whisper in the night, is part of a larger narrative that unfolds subtly for those who pay attention. Guests often leave with memories that linger long after their stay. They carry impressions of the shifting river, the faint music, and the sense of unseen eyes watching over them. Objects slightly moved, shadows that do not belong, and whispers that speak of moments long past create an experience both beautiful and haunting. The inn's presence is gentle yet profound. A reminder that some places exist not only in the physical world but also in the spaces between perception, memory, and imagination. Riverside Inn invites travelers to explore and witness its mysteries firsthand. Every hallway, room, and window offers the possibility of encountering the extraordinary. The river continues its slow course, reflecting shapes that vanish before full observation. And the inn itself continues to quietly respond to those who enter. And the subtle dialogue between the present and what lingers unseen. Those who venture to Rivera's edge and quickly realize that it is more than a place to stay. It is a space where history, memory, and mystery converge. Shadows, whispers, and shifting reflections form a narrative that is at once tangible and intangible, creating an experience that resonates long after departure. Travelers leave with the understanding that the inn exists in its own rhythm, a keeper of secrets and subtle wonders that remain quietly along the Rivera's edge. Magnolia Shores Hotel rises along the edge of a quiet river, its whitewashed walls and grand balconies reflecting the soft light of the setting sun. By day, it seems a charming retreat, with the scent of magnolia trees drifting across the grounds and the gentle lapping of water against the shore. Yet as twilight deepens, the atmosphere shifts. Shadows gather along the corridors, and a sense of presence, subtle yet undeniable, takes hold of the expansive halls. Visitors often notice a shadowy figure pacing along the balconies. It moves slowly and deliberately, following the contours of the railings as if tracing a familiar path. When observed closely, the figure seems human in shape but indistinct in detail, as if formed from the very darkness itself. Moments later, it vanishes, leaving only the quiet echo of its movement and the lingering impression that someone or something watches over the hotel. Inside, the halls resonate with sounds that defy explanation. Soft crying drifts from rooms that appear empty. A mournful cadence that ebbs and flows like a tide. Guests report these experiences with a mixture of fascination and unease, sensing a story in motion yet remaining beyond their grasp. Each sound feels purposeful, part of the lingering memory embedded in the walls of the hotel. The architecture of Magnolia Shores Hotel amplifies these phenomena. Long hallways stretch under high ceilings, their polished floors reflecting lantern light in elongated patterns. Doors, framed by ornate moldings, seem to breathe with the passage of unseen figures. Every element of the building appears to guide attention, shaping perception in ways that heighten the sense of mystery. Children have been seen running along the empty hallways. Their movements are fleeting, often visible only at the edge of vision, leaving a sense of energy that contrasts with the otherwise still air. The figures vanish when approached, leaving no trace but the faint sound of laughter or hurried footsteps. Witnesses describe the sensation as bittersweet, a glimpse into lives once present, preserved within the walls of the hotel. The balconies, overlooking the river and surrounding gardens, serve as focal points for much of the activity. The shadowy figure often appears here at night, tracing the outlines of the railings, pausing at corners, and sometimes looking outward as if contemplating the waters below. From these vantage points, visitors can feel the weight of history, an awareness that the hotel carries echoes of its past in every plank, every railing, and every shuttered window. The hotel seems to respond to attention. Objects shift subtly when unobserved. And the faint smell of magnolia blossoms sometimes grows unexpectedly strong. Guests report moments where the air feels heavier, charged with an unspoken presence. The interplay of light, shadow, and sound creates an immersive experience, encouraging mindfulness of every step, every glance, and every pause within the space. Hallways are filled with ambient detail that deepens the atmosphere. Old portraits hang at intervals, their painted eyes seeming to follow visitors as they move. The floors creak with familiar irregularity, and the gentle ripple of water against the shore outside resonates faintly within the rooms. Even in stillness, the hotel communicates a sense of life beyond the ordinary, a persistence that transcends absence and time. Rooms once occupied by past guests carry subtle traces. Chairs tilt slightly, books shift on shelves, and windows occasionally rattle without wind. The soft crying and fleeting figures of children suggest stories left unfinished. Lives remembered in echoes rather than in flesh. The hotel preserves these moments with careful restraint, offering glimpses leaving visitors to sense a connection that is intimate yet intangible. Night brings the hotel's presence into sharper focus. Shadows move with more clarity along corridors and balconies. And the sounds of footsteps, laughter, and murmured voices grow more pronounced. The cry of children, the movement of the shadowy figure, and the occasional slam of a door combine to form a rhythm that is both haunting and compelling. Guests report feeling observed, guided, and included in the silent narrative, as if Magnolia Shores itself is alive, recounting its history through subtle interaction. By dawn, the hotel returns to its serene daytime state. Shadows retract, cries fade, and the hallways are quiet once more. Yet the memory of night persists, lingering in the minds of those who experienced it. Visitors leave carrying the impression of a space where past and present intersect. Where the architecture and atmosphere converge to tell stories that are only partially visible. Leaving much to imagination and reflection. Magnolia Shores Hotel endures as a place of quiet mystery. Every hallway, balcony, and room contributes to an intricate tapestry of presence, memory, and subtle interaction. It is a hotel where shadows have shape, where sounds carry meaning, and where the echoes of children and the pacing figure remind visitors that some places are more than buildings. They are living repositories of stories, waiting to be discovered by those who walk quietly, observe carefully, and listen intently. Driftwood Lodge sits perched at the edge of a mist-laden lake. Its timbered walls worn by wind and rain, yet resilient as if holding on to secrets long forgotten. The air is heavy with the scent of damp wood and pine, carrying an undertone of something indefinable. A presence that seems to linger in every corridor and room. Visitors are immediately aware that the lodge is more than a building. It is a space that watches, waits, and remembers. Lanterns flicker even when the power is off, casting shadows that dance across walls and ceilings. The movement is subtle, almost hypnotic, and yet unmistakably intentional. Guests find themselves drawn to the glow, following its rhythm from hallway to hallway, sensing that the flickering light is more than illumination, it is a signal, a pulse of the lodge itself, communicating in quiet patterns. Rooms are furnished with aged elegance. Heavy curtains hang from windows. And rugs are worn soft from years of footsteps. Guests often describe a sensation of being touched as they sleep. Icy hands brushing against arms or shoulders, leaving shivers in their wake. Whispers murmur through the halls at night, carrying secrets about the loggia's past owners. The sounds are soft, indistinct, yet they convey emotion or regret, longing, and something closer to warning. Guests feel compelled to listen, yet when they attempt to focus, the words dissolve, leaving only a feeling, a residue of memory embedded within the walls. Each hallway, each creaking floorboard, seems to carry the weight of history, echoing events that unfolded long before modern visitors arrived. The lodge is enveloped in mist that rolls in from the lake, seeping beneath doors and curling around corners. The fog is never thick enough to obscure vision entirely, but it bends perception, making hallways appear longer, rooms seem larger, and doors appear in places where none existed moments before. The effect is subtle, disorienting, and immersive, giving every step a sense of significance. Guests often notice small anomalies. Footsteps echo in empty hallways. Chairs creak without movement. And mirrors reflect shapes that vanish when confronted directly. Shadows seem to respond to presence, elongating or twisting in ways that defy natural physics. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Quiet yet undeniable. Observation itself becomes part of the experience, a form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. A form of engagement with something larger than the physical structure. The lodge feels alive, a living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. A living entity whose awareness is quiet yet undeniable. Even the lake outside contributes to the atmosphere. Its surface is unnaturally still at times, reflecting the lodge and surrounding forest with mirror-like clarity. Ripples can appear without explanation, and faint shapes are sometimes glimpsed beneath the surface, vanishing before identification. The interplay of water, fog, and reflection amplifies the loggia's otherworldly quality, extending the sense of mystery beyond walls and windows. Lanterns along corridors and staircases create a slow choreography of light and shadow. The flickers seem to anticipate movement, highlighting details otherwise overlooked. The delicate carvings on banisters, the patterns of frost on windows, the worn threads of rugs that have absorbed generations of footsteps. Every element contributes to an atmosphere of quiet observation, as though the lodge encourages awareness and patience rather than hurried exploration. The air is filled with faint sounds that cannot be traced to any source. The soft creak of floorboards, the distant clink of glass, or the faint sigh of wind through shutters. These auditory cues enhance the loggia's immersive quality, making every corridor feel inhabited and every empty room a stage for subtle drama. Travelers report feeling the presence of former guests and owners alike, a sense that the lodge retains and records the lives of those who have passed through. Driftwood Lodge seems to manipulate perception in subtle ways. Hallways may appear slightly altered between visits, doors that once led to one room now lead elsewhere. And windows occasionally reveal views that do not correspond to geography outside. Time behaves differently within the lodge as well. Minutes stretch and compress unpredictably. And guests often find themselves losing track of hours or even entire nights as the interplay of light, fog, and sound directs attention and shapes experience. The lodge does not frighten in a conventional sense. There is no threat, only awareness. Visitors feel a constant, gentle tension, a reminder that they are part of a space that exists in layers. The history embedded in walls, floors, and furniture interacts with the present, creating a seamless narrative that is sensed rather than explained. Observation becomes participation, and participation becomes understanding, as subtle phenomena leave indelible impressions on perception and memory. As dawn approaches, the mist begins to lift, and lanterns dim. The icy touches fade, whispers recede, and the lake returns to its natural flow. The lodge takes on a more conventional appearance, yet visitors leave with a lingering sense of presence. A realization that Driftwood Lodge exists beyond ordinary experience. The memories of flickering lights, whispers, and icy touches remain, etched into consciousness. As the physical structure recedes behind the trees and fog, Driftwood Lodge endures as a place suspended between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Its lanterns, whispers, and ghostly touches create an immersive environment that tests perception, heightens awareness, and fosters reflection. Guests depart forever altered, carrying impressions of a place where history, memory, and unseen presences converge. A lodge that teaches observation, patience, and the subtle interplay of light, shadow, and atmosphere. Silver Stream Inn rests along a narrow riverbank, its weathered stone walls reflecting the silver light of the moon on still nights. By day, it welcomes travelers with the promise of comfort, quiet rooms, and the gentle murmur of the stream outside. Yet as twilight descends, the inn begins to reveal a more enigmatic presence, a subtle layering of the ordinary with the inexplicable. Windows that face the river often hold unexpected reflections. Figures appear suddenly, framed in the glass, observing the interior with an unsettling stillness. They are fleeting, vanishing when approached, yet their presence is unmistakable. The figures are silent, yet their observation conveys intent, a quiet insistence that the space is shared with more than the living. Within the rooms, the inn's atmosphere carries an almost tactile quality. Beds that were neatly made may appear subtly disturbed in the morning, as though someone had briefly rested there. The effect is never destructive, merely suggestive of a presence moving with purpose and care. Objects remain in place, yet small disturbances, a displaced pillow, a shifted blanket, create a lingering sense of interaction with the unseen. Guests awaken to these details with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, aware that the night has not been empty. The whispers are perhaps the most enigmatic element of Silver Stream Inn. They are faint, almost imperceptible at first, drifting along the corridors and through the rooms. Their source seems to resist localization, emerging from walls, ceilings, or even the still air itself. While the words are rarely discernible, the tonal quality conveys meaning, an echo of conversation, laughter, or concern that feels deeply human. Visitors describe the experience as immersive, a soundscape that threads through the night and anchors them in a space that is alive with memory. The architecture of the inn enhances the uncanny effect. Narrow hallways wind unpredictably. Staircases creak under invisible weight. And doorways frame spaces that feel larger than they should. Shadows gather and stretch, responding subtly to the movement of guests. Even familiar furniture seems imbued with anticipation, as though each table, chair, and dresser carries an imprint of countless interactions over decades. The building itself appears to participate in the phenomena, amplifying the presence of figures and whispers alike. The river outside acts as both a boundary and a conduit. Its flowing waters produce a constant, soft rhythm, a natural heartbeat that complements the whispered sounds inside. On some nights, the murmur of the stream seems to synchronize with the whispers, creating the impression that the inn and the river share a single, fluid consciousness. Guests report moments when the outside and inside blend seamlessly. Reflections in the water merging with figures at the windows. A fusion of the natural and the supernatural that is both beautiful and unnerving. Time within Silver Stream Inn can feel fluid. Moments stretch and contract, and familiar patterns repeat with subtle variations. A footstep heard in the hallway may recur, slightly altered, as if replayed from a memory that refuses to fade. The sensation is immersive, creating a temporal layering that leaves visitors aware of history and presence interwoven into every corner of the inn. Despite the eeriness, the inn retains a sense of calm and dignity. There is no threat in the figures or whispers, only observation and gentle interaction. Visitors often describe a feeling of being acknowledged, rather than intruded upon, a sense that the inn preserves and responds to human presence with quiet attentiveness. Every sound, shadow, and subtle movement contributes to a narrative of continuity, memory, and the coexistence of the living with echoes of the past. By morning, the disturbances soften and the whispers fade. Beds are still slightly rumpled, shadows retreat with the light. And the river flows steadily without the illusion of response. Yet the impressions of the night remain, lingering in the minds of guests who have sensed the inn's awareness. Silver Stream Inn becomes a place remembered not only for its comfort but for the quiet, persistent presence that defines it. A living space where the unseen participates in every night, every whisper, and every reflection in the moonlit windows. Silver Stream Inn is more than a riverside retreat. It is a space where observation, memory, and subtle interaction merge, creating an immersive experience that stretches beyond ordinary perception. Guests leave with the sense that the inn continues to watch, respond, and remember, a testament to the enduring presence of the unseen, and the quiet mysteries that dwell within spaces shaped by time and human experience. Foggy River Hotel sits at the edge of a winding river, where mist drifts perpetually across the water and into the surrounding landscape. The building's weathered brick and timber frame are softened by the constant haze, giving it an appearance of being suspended between reality and dream. The fog creeps silently through the corridors and stairwells, curling along the edges of walls and pooling in corners, creating an ever-changing landscape within the hotel itself. Guests often awaken to the sound of footsteps pacing nearby. The noise seems to travel along hallways with deliberate rhythm, echoing off ceilings and walls. Yet when investigated, the corridors are empty. The sound is unsettling because it is so familiar, so human, yet impossibly intangible. Travelers describe a sensation of being observed, of footsteps that follow patterns just out of reach, hinting at a presence that is both there and not there. Shadows within the hotel behave strangely. Visitors report glimpsing forms that vanish around corners they did not notice before, moving with a speed and subtlety that defy ordinary perception. These fleeting glimpses leave an impression, a sense that the building itself holds memories of lives once lived within its walls. Mirrors reflect not only the present but faint traces of the past. creating a tension between what is real and what is remembered. Between the living and the echoes of those long gone. The architecture of Foggy River Hotel amplifies the eerie atmosphere. Wooden floors creak under even the lightest step, hallways stretch longer than expected. And staircases turn unexpectedly. Windows, often fogged from the moisture of the river, distort views of the exterior, making the familiar landscape appear unfamiliar. Even the furniture contributes to the feeling of unease, polished surfaces reflecting light in unusual ways, and chairs or tables subtly shifted when no one has entered the room. Faint murmurs accompany the fog. Visitors sometimes hear indistinct voices, soft fragments of conversation that seem to originate from rooms long abandoned or from corridors where no one stands. Visitors sometimes hear indistinct voices, soft fragments of conversation that seem to originate from rooms long abandoned or from corridors where no one stands. Soft fragments of conversation that seem to originate from rooms long abandoned or from corridors where no one stands. Seem to originate from rooms long abandoned or from corridors where no one stands. Or from corridors where no one stands. At night, the whispers intensify, interwoven with the sounds of the river, producing an experience that is simultaneously beautiful and disquieting. Interwoven with the sounds of the river, producing an experience that is simultaneously beautiful and disquieting. Producing an experience that is simultaneously beautiful and disquieting. The river itself plays a role in the hotel's unusual character. In daylight, it appears tranquil, reflecting the sky and nearby trees. At dusk, however, its surface becomes reflective in ways that obscure reality, capturing shadows and shapes that seem to move independently. Guests walking along the hotel's outer corridors may catch sight of figures or patterns in the water, fleeting images that disappear when approached. This interplay of reflection and shadow contributes to the pervasive sense that Foggy River Hotel exists on the edge of the ordinary world. Rooms in the hotel maintain a timeless quality. Furniture is arranged with care, yet subtle shifts suggest unseen interactions. Bedspreads may be turned slightly, items repositioned without explanation, and the soft murmur of water against the riverbank is a constant companion. Lamps cast gentle pools of light, yet corners remain dark and shifting, leaving space for the imagination to fill. The overall effect is immersive, a sense of inhabiting a space that is both familiar and subtly alien. Footsteps and shadows combine to create a narrative within the hotel. Patterns emerge that suggest repetition, as though the building itself is replaying fragments of the past. Guests speak of following sounds down corridors only to find themselves in different locations than expected. Or glimpsing shadows that lead to rooms that seem newly created. This shifting quality fosters a constant awareness, a careful attention to every movement, sound, and reflection. The fog adds a layer of mystery that persists throughout the day. Even when sunlight breaks through, a thin veil remains, softening edges and muting colors. The mist carries the scent of the river and damp earth, mingling with the subtle aromas of the hotel's interiors. The mist moves through hallways, brushing along carpets and railings, creating fleeting impressions of figures and motion that vanish when approached. The effect is hypnotic, drawing guests into a heightened state of perception and awareness. Despite its strange qualities, Foggy River Hotel is never hostile. Its mysteries are subtle, inviting observation rather than forcing confrontation. Guests often leave with a mixture of curiosity and reflection, carrying with them impressions of footsteps that could not be traced, and the constant presence of fog that seems alive with memory. The hotel operates on a rhythm of its own, blending history, perception, and a quiet awareness that transcends ordinary experience. As night deepens, the hotel reveals its most compelling moments. The river mirrors the shifting fog. Hallways are filled with the sound of pacing footsteps. And shadows stretch along walls in ways that challenge understanding. Guests pause in hallways, noticing subtle movements. And hearing soft whispers, fully aware that the hotel is alive in its own mysterious manner. The experience is immersive and lasting, creating memories that remain vivid long after departure. The river, the fog, the corridors, and the shifting shadows combine to form an atmosphere that is both serene and uncanny. A place where every creak, whisper, and reflection is part of a larger story, one that continues quietly in the folds of mist and shadow along the Rivera's edge. Moonlight Harbor Lodge stands at the edge of a quiet bay, its grand structure reflected in the still waters below. By day, it exudes elegance, with white columns lining the porches and flower boxes spilling over with blooms. The sound of waves lapping against the docks creates a serene atmosphere, yet as evening descends, the lodge transforms. Shadows gather in the corners, and an air of expectancy fills the halls, hinting at stories that linger beyond sight. The ballroom is the heart of this transformation. Even when no electricity runs, the lights flicker with a gentle glow, casting shifting patterns across the polished wooden floor. Guests have described the illumination as both warm and unnatural, an invitation to witness something beyond the ordinary. The flickering seems to pulse with life, guiding the eye to the center of the room where the air feels heavier, charged with the energy of unseen activity. The air feels heavier, charged with the energy of unseen activity. Figures in old-fashioned clothing appear silently within the ballroom. They move with grace and purpose, dancing as though following a rhythm that exists only for them. Men in tailcoats bow to women in flowing gowns, spinning and stepping in precise, elegant patterns. The figures leave no footprints, cast no shadows, yet their presence is undeniable. Observers describe a mixture of awe and unease, a sense that the lodge preserves memories so vivid that they manifest as echoes of life itself. Whispers emanate from the floorboards, subtle at first and then rising in a chorus of faint voices. Names, fragmented sentences, laughter, and quiet conversation seem to seep upward through the wooden planks. The sounds are intimate, drawing attention to corners and walls, suggesting stories left unfinished, moments replayed endlessly. Guests report leaning close to the floor to listen, only to find silence restored when examined directly. The lodge communicates in this way, through the interplay of sound, shadow, and movement. The architecture amplifies every detail. High ceilings with ornate molding carry sound in unusual ways, making whispers seem near and far simultaneously. Tall windows reflect the moonlight onto the floor, illuminating dancers who vanish when approached. Chandeliers sway slightly without wind, their crystals catching light and refracting it across walls. Every element of the room contributes to an immersive experience, one that blurs the line between memory and the present. The history of Moonlight Harbor Lodge is woven into its very structure. Built over a century ago, it has hosted countless celebrations, gatherings, and farewells. Each event seems to have left an imprint, a resonance that visitors now perceive. Furniture is arranged with precision, as if anticipating the movements of the spectral dancers. Carpets show subtle depressions and patterns that suggest recent use, though no living soul has passed over them. The lodge preserves moments of joy and sorrow alike, replaying them in forms that defy explanation. Guests often report subtle interactions. A brush of a sleeve against the arm, the sense of being guided across the floor. Or the faint sound of shoes tapping in sync with the whispers. It is never threatening, yet undeniably present, a reminder that the lodge's history is not confined to photographs or documents. Each sensation feels intentional, part of a broader narrative that encompasses time, memory, and the persistence of human experience. The ballroom is only one of many spaces where the lodge's presence is felt. Corridors hum with ambient sound, the quiet creak of floorboards suggesting movement just beyond perception. Doors open and close without wind, and mirrors reflect shapes that vanish when observed directly. Even the smallest details, the tilt of a picture frame or the slight shift of a chair, contribute to the sense that Moonlight Harbor Lodge is alive with unseen guests who have not fully departed. Night intensifies the phenomena. The moon casts silver light across the bay, illuminating the lodge in a spectral glow. The dancers in the ballroom move with heightened clarity, suggesting conversations frozen in time yet replaying endlessly. Observers feel drawn into the rhythm of the space, allowing a glimpse into its preserved memories. By morning, the lodge resumes its daytime tranquility. Shadows retreat. The flickering lights cease. And the ballroom is empty once more. Yet the impressions of the night linger. Visitors leave carrying the sensation of a place where time is fluid, where history manifests as light, movement and sound, and where the echoes of past lives remain vivid and present. Moonlight Harbor Lodge endures as a place where elegance meets enigma. Every corner, every floorboard, and every flicker of light contributes to a narrative that blends history, memory, and subtle supernatural presence. Guests depart with more than photographs and stories. They carry a sense of having witnessed the continuation of life beyond the visible. An understanding that some places preserve their history not only in walls and objects, but in the living memory of those who once passed through. Cypress Hollow Inn rests at the edge of a slow, winding river, surrounded by towering cypress trees. The building is old, its walls timbered and weathered, and its windows glimmer faintly in the moonlight. Guests immediately sense that the inn is more than a structuria, it is a repository of memory, echoing with voices and moments that have long since passed. Visitors often hear voices calling from empty rooms, carried softly on the night air. The sounds are indistinct at first, a murmur at the edge of perception, yet unmistakably human. Some are gentle, fleeting words, while others seem urgent, whispering secrets from beyond the present. Guests feel compelled to move through the halls, searching for the source, only to find spaces empty and silent, as though the inn itself is teasing perception. Cold drafts move unexpectedly along corridors, brushing against the spine of those who walk through. They are accompanied by fleeting touches, gentle yet undeniable, that vanish as quickly as they appear. The sensation is unnerving, a reminder that Cypress Hollow Inn exists partially in a realm beyond ordinary understanding. Each encounter heightens awareness, turning every creak of floorboards and rustle of curtains into a signal worth noticing. The river outside is a constant presence, its surface deceptively still. On nights when the sky is clear, travelers have reported seeing lights shifting across the water, reflections that do not correspond to any visible source. Lanterns from the inn or distant houses appear to dance along the current, moving in patterns that suggest intent. The effect is mesmerizing, adding to the inn's sense of being both part of the natural world and apart from it, a place that bends perception without force. Lanterns hang along corridors and patios, casting warm light that flickers with subtle, inexplicable rhythm. Shadows stretch and move in response to the lanterns, elongating across walls and ceilings, creating patterns that seem alive. Every corner feels alive, every doorway a threshold into something unseen. Guests notice small anomalies of the slight shimmer of an empty chair, the sound of footsteps that disappear as soon as attention focuses on them, or reflections in glass that appear from angles not possible. The inn's architecture is timeless. Heavy wooden beams and intricate moldings evoke an era long past. Yet the details are sharp and present, as if preserved in a delicate balance between history and memory. Rooms feel intimate, furnished with care, and yet there is always an undercurrent of anticipation. As if the inn is aware of every movement and every breath taken within its walls. The combination of beauty and subtle tension creates an atmosphere both comforting and compelling, drawing visitors deeper into exploration. Sound behaves differently at Cypress Hollow Inn. Voices echo unpredictably, sometimes amplified, sometimes muffled. As if traveling through invisible corridors. The interplay of sound and space enhances the sense of presence, leaving guests aware that their surroundings are layered with both the tangible and intangible. A blend of physical structure and lingering memory. Fog from the river drifts into courtyards and hallways, curling around banisters and seeping beneath doors. Softens edges, blurring the distinction between inside and outside. Creates fleeting illusions of movement. Guests sometimes glimpse figures within the mist, only for them to vanish upon closer inspection. The effect is immersive and disorienting, as though the inn itself orchestrates perception to reveal just enough to intrigue without fully explaining. Time moves subtly differently within the inn. Guests often note that hours pass in ways that feel inconsistent with ordinary measurement. A brief walk down a corridor may feel like a journey lasting much longer, while moments spent observing a still room pass unnoticed. Even the smallest details enhance the atmosphere. The creak of floorboards, the ripple of water against the riverbank, or the soft clink of glass from an unseen source adds texture to the environment. Shadows fall at unexpected angles, and windows sometimes reveal reflections of spaces that do not exist in reality. Guests begin to perceive patterns in these subtle anomalies, a secret logic that underlies the inn's persistent mystery. Night heightens every sensation. Lanterns glow brighter in the fog. Shadows lengthen and twist. And voices carry further than daylight allows. The river mirrors the inn's light, creating an interplay of reflection and movement that feels almost deliberate. Every sound, shadow, and touch is accentuated, drawing attention to the ways in which Cypress Hollow Inn occupies the space between the ordinary and extraordinary, familiar and uncanny. Guests leave Cypress Hollow Inn carrying impressions that linger long after departure. The cold touches, whispered voices, and shifting reflections become memories that defy easy explanation. Even when the fog clears and the river returns to its natural state, the inn's influence remains, a reminder of a place where perception is guided, where history is palpable, and where subtle phenomena shape experience in profound ways. Cypress Hollow Inn endures as a space suspended between reality and imagination. Its river, fog, lanterns, and whispering voices create an environment that challenges understanding, while inviting careful observation. Visitors depart forever aware that some places are not merely locations, but experiences, where time, memory, and unseen presences converge, leaving impressions that continue to ripple long after the last glance at its misty waters. River Mist Hotel sits quietly along the banks of a winding river, its stone walls and tall windows reflecting the silver glow of moonlight. By day, it welcomes travelers with promises of comfort, warm meals, and the gentle murmur of water outside. But as night descends, the atmosphere transforms. The river itself seems to carry a presence, a living current that flows into the hotel, brushing against walls, hallways, and the rooms of those who stay within. Guests often notice subtle changes the moment darkness falls. The sound of water becomes more pronounced, as if it carries voices, faint yet distinct, weaving through the air. The whispers are soft, almost hesitant, but unmistakable, sometimes calling names with a delicate urgency. They echo along hallways and through rooms, lingering for moments before fading into silence, leaving visitors aware of a presence just beyond perception. Figures are seen in the corridors, appearing unexpectedly at the end of a hallway or near a staircase. Their form is solid yet elusive, vanishing the moment approached. The effect is subtle but persistent, a reminder that the hotel is inhabited by more than its human guests. Observers often feel the weight of unseen eyes, a quiet attentiveness that seems to track movement and respond to curiosity. A quiet, unsettling atmosphere pervades the hotel, as if the very fabric of reality is beginning to unravel. Rooms within River Mist Hotel carry an unusual intimacy. Furniture may shift slightly overnight, as if someone has adjusted it with gentle care. Beds appear subtly disturbed, pillows angled differently, blankets slightly rearranged. These small changes are never disruptive, only suggestive of an unseen presence interacting with the spaces quietly and purposefully. Guests awaken with a mixture of wonder and unease, sensing the lingering influence of the night. The architecture of the hotel amplifies these experiences. Long corridors wind unexpectedly, staircases creak with no one upon them. And doorways frame spaces that seem larger than they should be. Shadows gather in corners, stretching and twisting with the flicker of dimmed lights. The combination of light, sound, and structure creates an environment that feels alive, as though the building itself participates in the unseen activity. The river outside provides a constant, gentle rhythm that integrates with the whispers inside. Its flow mirrors the cadence of the murmurs, creating a seamless connection between the natural and the supernatural. On particularly still nights, reflections in the water shimmer with an unidentifiable presence, blending with figures glimpsed through the windows. This interplay heightens the immersive atmosphere, drawing attention to both the interior and exterior of the hotel as parts of a singular, mysterious experience. Time within River Mist Hotel often feels fluid. Minutes can stretch and contract, and repetitive sounds create a rhythm. And doors may open slightly and close again with no discernible cause. The whispers evolve and shift, sometimes replaying fragments of conversations from decades past. At other times forming entirely new utterances. The layering of past and present gives the impression that the hotel exists within multiple temporal planes simultaneously. Despite the subtle unease, the hotel maintains a quiet dignity. The figures and whispers are not threatening, they are observant, attentive, and reflective. Guests often describe a sensation of being acknowledged rather than intruded upon, a presence that carries memory and continuity. Every sound, shadow, and shift contributes to the narrative of a space that remembers, reacts, and interacts in delicate, almost imperceptible ways. By dawn, the activity subsides. The rooms settle into their ordinary state. And the corridors seem calm once more. Yet the impression of the previous night lingers, etched into the consciousness of those who have experienced it. The hotel retains its mysteries, continuing to observe and respond long after human eyes depart. River Mist Hotel is more than a place to rest. It is a living environment where the natural and supernatural converge. Where the echoes of the past persist, and where subtle presences interact with those who enter. Guests leave with the knowledge that the building remembers, listens, and quietly watches. A testament to the enduring resonance of unseen forces and the mysteries that flow like the river along its banks. Lantern Bay Lodge rests on the edge of a quiet cove, its wooden beams darkened by time. And its windows reflecting the gentle sway of the water below. At night, the lodge seems to come alive in subtle ways, revealing a presence that is felt more than seen. A sense of history lingering in every shadow and whisper. Soft lanterns appear on tables without anyone lighting them. Their warm glow casts gentle pools of light across the worn wooden floors and polished tables, illuminating spaces that feel otherwise empty. Visitors speak of arriving late in the evening and discovering the lights already present, flickering softly as though acknowledging the presence of unseen company. The effect is both comforting and unsettling. A reminder that the lodge holds secrets beyond ordinary observation. Shadows are another element of Lantern Bay Loggia's strange character. Guests have seen forms standing silently near windows, watching the darkened waters or the winding paths of the lodge grounds. These shadows do not move like ordinary people, they glide or linger with an almost deliberate patience, vanishing when approached or observed directly. The feeling of being watched is subtle, never threatening, yet it creates a heightened awareness, a sense that the lodge itself is attentive to every movement, every breath. Whispers echo through the hallways, repeating fragments of conversations from decades past. Sometimes they are faint, almost beneath perception, other times more distinct, carrying the cadence and emotion of people long gone. Travelers have described hearing echoes of laughter, snippets of hurried discussion, and the soft tones of voices exchanging thoughts across rooms and corridors. The effect is mesmerizing, drawing guests into a world where the past and present intertwine, where memories linger in the air like a faint perfume. The architecture of the lodge enhances its otherworldly atmosphere. Narrow corridors stretch longer than expected, staircases curve in gentle arcs. Staircases curve in gentle arcs and corners sometimes seem to shift subtly when observed in passing. Corners sometimes seem to shift subtly when observed in passing. Windows framed with heavy drapes distort light and shadow. Windows framed with heavy drapes distort light and shadow, creating illusions that feel natural at first glance but reveal something uncanny upon closer inspection. Creating illusions that feel natural at first glance but reveal something uncanny upon closer inspection. Floorboards creak softly under even the lightest step. Floorboards creak softly under even the lightest step, as though echoing the movements of invisible guests who have walked these halls before. Even in the dining area, the lodge exhibits its mysterious qualities. Tables are often perfectly set, polished silver reflecting the glow of lanterns, yet no staff is present. Cups and utensils may be slightly moved when guests return, leaving only subtle signs that something has passed through the space. These moments are brief and understated, yet they leave a lasting impression, a reminder that Lantern Bay Lodge is more than a building, it is a keeper of experiences, emotions, and unseen presences. The cove itself contributes to the loggia's reputation. At night, the water reflects the lantern light, creating shifting patterns that seem almost alive. Waves lap gently at the shore, carrying with them the scent of salt and the faint resonance of the past. Guests often pause at windows to observe the water, noticing subtle shapes and forms that appear and vanish with the rhythm of the tide. The interplay between the natural world and the loggia's interior heightens the sense of being part of something larger, a story unfolding both around and within the building. Visitors describe moments of heightened awareness, when time seems to stretch and the ordinary rules of perception feel suspended. Footsteps echo along hallways that seem longer than they should, shadows drift along walls without clear source. And whispers repeat fragments of conversations with uncanny clarity. The experience is immersive, engaging both senses and imagination, inviting reflection on the passage of time and the lingering presence of those who came before. Despite the loggia's mysterious qualities, it is never overtly hostile. Guests often speak of a sense of gentle curiosity emanating from the space. The subtle movements of objects. The quiet whispers. The soft glow of lanterns. It is a place where history is tangible, yet experienced in a manner that encourages contemplation and attention to the smallest details. Yet experienced in a manner that encourages contemplation and attention to the smallest details. And attention to the smallest details. The loggia's history is woven into every beam and floorboard. Generations of travelers, families, and caretakers have passed through its doors, leaving behind traces of emotion and presence that remain palpable. Stories of love, loss, and quiet joy echo faintly through the halls, becoming part of the loggia's character. Guests often feel as though they are not merely visitors but witnesses to moments that continue to unfold in the quiet interplay of shadow, light, and sound. Even in the quietest hours, Lantern Bay Lodge maintains its unique rhythm. The lanterns glow without explanation, shadows linger at the edges of vision, and whispers float softly through rooms. Guests pause in hallways, sensing subtle movements and hearing faint voices, aware that the lodge is alive in ways that transcend ordinary experience. The combination of light, shadow, and sound creates a narrative that is both immersive and enduring, leaving a lasting impression on all who spend time within its walls. Lantern Bay Lodge is more than a place to stay. It is a space where time, memory, and perception intersect. Where every shadow, whisper, and glow contributes to a story that is ongoing and ever-present. Travelers leave with a sense of having experienced something rare, a connection to both the past and the unseen. The lodge exists quietly along the water, preserving echoes of those who have passed through, inviting new visitors to witness its mysteries, and reminding all who enter that some presences linger long after the moment has passed. Willow Whisper Inn rests quietly along the banks of a winding river, its timbered walls and gently sloping roofs reflected in the water below. By day, it seems a serene retreat, surrounded by willows that sway softly in the breeze. The scent of damp earth and river reeds fills the air, creating a sense of calm and tranquility. Yet as night falls, the inn takes on a different character, one filled with quiet whispers and fleeting shadows that hint at stories untold. Guests often awaken to find doors ajar, even if they had locked them before sleep. The subtle creak of hinges carries through the halls, and the soft evening light casts long, shifting shadows across polished floors. It is not an aggressive disturbance, but a gentle reminder that the inn holds a life of its own. Visitors describe a feeling of being observed without seeing anyone, a presence that is patient and persistent, yet elusive. The walls themselves seem to murmur. Words are never clear, but there is a cadence, a rhythm of language that suggests secrets held for decades. Guests often pause in hallways to listen, leaning close to the plaster and wood, trying to discern meaning, only to find that the sounds dissolve when approached directly. Near the river's edge, figures have been glimpsed moving through the mist. Children, women, and men have been reported, sometimes standing still as if waiting, other times walking slowly along the bank. They vanish when approached, leaving only the soft ripple of water or the gentle sway of willow branches. These apparitions are neither threatening nor overtly visible, but they leave a lingering sense of presence, an awareness of lives intertwined with the inn for generations. The architecture of Willow Whisper Inn amplifies these experiences. Narrow hallways, high ceilings, and wooden staircases carry sounds in unusual ways, making whispers and creaks seem near or far depending on perception. Each room, hallway, and corner contributes to a sense of intimacy with the past, where every detail encourages attentiveness to movement, sound, and shadow. Visitors describe moments where the inn seems almost aware of their presence. Chairs shift slightly when left untouched, small objects move without explanation. And the faint scent of flowers or old wood appears unexpectedly. The combination of subtle movement, ambient sound, and environmental detail creates an immersive experience. One that encourages observation and reflection. It is as if the inn itself invites guests to witness its history through perception rather than direct interaction. The river adds another layer to the mystery. Its surface captures the moonlight and reflects shapes that may or may not be real. Ripples appear in otherwise still water, and the soft murmur of flowing currents blends with whispers from the walls. Guests walking along the bank sense that the water holds memory, that moments from long ago continue to exist in the reflections and in the shifting mist that rolls along the shore. Night intensifies these phenomena. Shadows grow longer, whispers more persistent, and figures near the river more distinct. The inn communicates in subtle ways, using sound, movement, and light to convey a sense of continuity with the past. Guests describe the sensation of walking through a space alive with memory, where each step and glance carries a hint of history, a reminder of lives once present and still lingering. Despite the unsettling elements, Willow Whisper Inn is not a place of fear. Its presence is quiet, deliberate, and deeply immersive. It encourages curiosity and careful attention, rewarding those who notice subtle details with a sense of connection to something beyond the ordinary. The experience is both haunting and beautiful, offering a bridge between the present and echoes of the past preserved in walls, floors, and waterside mist. By dawn, the inn resumes its serene daytime state. Guests carry the sense of having witnessed something enduring, a space where history manifests subtly. And where memory has not faded but remains present in sound, shadow, and motion. Willow Whisper Inn endures as a place where past and present converge. Every hallway, room, and riverbank contributes to a tapestry of experience, blending memory, perception, and subtle supernatural presence. Visitors leave with more than recollections, they carry the feeling of a space that preserves the essence of those who once walked its floors, whispering their stories to anyone willing to listen and observe carefully. Riverwatch Hotel stands on the edge of a wide, slow-moving river, its stone and timber structure reflecting the glow of distant lights across the water. The building exudes a quiet elegance, yet beneath its polished exterior lies a subtle tension, a sense that the hotel holds more than guests and furniture. It is a place steeped in history, where every hallway, every room, and every corridor carries whispers of the past, some of which are never fully revealed. At midnight, the hallways fill with quiet voices. They are soft, almost imperceptible at first, carrying words that seem intended for no one in particular. Guests pause mid-step, listening as the murmurs drift along the corridors, rising and falling as if traveling with their own rhythm. Some guests describe them as fleeting, while others say they linger just long enough to be remembered. Many visitors have reported the sensation of being followed. A presence seems to move alongside them, invisible yet palpable. It does not push or threaten, but it is consistently there, brushing against the edge of awareness. Steps echo in empty hallways, soft and deliberate, synchronized with the movements of those walking alone. Guests often find themselves glancing over shoulders, expecting to see another traveler, yet always finding the hallways empty. Whispers repeat words that no one else can hear. Names, fragments of conversations, and phrases from long ago surface intermittently. As though the hotel remembers conversations that once took place within its walls. These utterances are fleeting, dissolving when attention is focused too closely. Leaving only the impression that something just beyond perception is trying to communicate. The effect is subtle, immersive, and deeply disorienting. Drawing guests further into the rhythm of the hotel. The architecture of Riverwatch Hotel contributes to its atmosphere. High ceilings and polished wooden floors amplify every sound. While narrow corridors create pockets of stillness that make whispers seem closer than they are. Heavy doors, worn staircases, and patterned rugs guide movement. While also shaping perception, emphasizing the interplay of sound, shadow, and space. Guests notice how quickly familiar hallways can feel unfamiliar. As if the layout subtly shifts when unobserved. Windows overlook the river, its surface often reflecting lights and shadows in patterns that do not match reality. Ripples appear without cause, and distant shapes flicker across the water, suggesting motion where none exists. Lanterns and sconces along the riverbank mirror the hotel's interior illumination, creating overlapping layers of light and shadow that blur boundaries between inside and out. This interplay of reflection and perception enhances the sense that Riverwatch Hotel is a place where reality is fluid and observation matters more than expectation. The air within the hotel is dense with atmosphere. Faint scents of polished wood, damp stone, and river mist mingle with subtle undertones of something indefinable, a presence that seems both comforting and disquieting. Guests notice the quiet sounds of the building settling, floorboards creaking in tandem with footsteps, and doors adjusting slightly as if accommodating invisible visitors. Rooms are arranged with care, furnished to convey warmth and elegance, yet they also feel layered with history. Beds are soft, curtains heavy, and tables carefully polished. Yet despite the apparent normalcy, there is a sense that these spaces are conduits for memory, vessels for experiences that repeat in subtle ways for those sensitive enough to perceive them. The soft whisper of a past conversation, the cold brush of air across a hand, the sensation of presence just beyond sight all serve to create an immersive environment that rewards attention. Time behaves differently at Riverwatch Hotel. Guests often report that hours pass in ways that feel inconsistent with the ordinary flow of minutes. A short walk through a corridor may feel much longer than it actually is, while moments spent observing a room can vanish without notice. The hotel seems to modulate perception, stretching and compressing experience in ways that heighten awareness and encourage careful observation. The river outside is a constant companion, its surface deceptively serene. On clear nights, lights from distant structures and floating lanterns are mirrored on the water, creating the impression of movement even when the current is calm. Ripples form and vanish without cause, and shadows sometimes appear beneath the surface, adding to the uncanny quality of the surroundings. The river's presence amplifies the whispers and sensations within the hotel, extending its influence beyond walls and into the landscape. As midnight deepens, sounds and sensations intensify. Whispers become more insistent, shadows grow longer, and the sensation of being followed grows more distinct. Yet the experience is not threatening. It is a quiet, deliberate awareness, a sense that Riverwatch Hotel holds secrets and invites observation rather than confrontation. Guests find themselves attuned to the environment, noticing subtle anomalies that would be imperceptible in ordinary spaces. By dawn, the river reflects the first light of morning, calm and ordinary once more. Hallways grow silent, whispers fade, and the presence felt during the night seems to recede. Yet the impressions linger, soft touches, echoed words, and the sense of being accompanied remain etched in memory. Guests depart carrying an awareness that the hotel is a place where perception, history, and subtle phenomena intersect, a space that defies simple explanation yet leaves a lasting mark. Riverwatch Hotel endures as a repository of layered experiences. Its quiet voices, repeated whispers, shifting shadows, and reflective river create an immersive environment that challenges understanding while fostering deep awareness. Visitors leave forever altered, with memories that cannot be fully described but must be felt. Reminding all who enter that some places are not just locations, but experiences. Spaces where time, perception, and presence converge to form something extraordinary. Cypress River Lodge stands nestled among towering cypress trees, their branches draping over the calm waters of the river below. By day, it appears serene, a quiet retreat for travelers seeking comfort and solitude. But as twilight settles, the lodge begins to reveal a more mysterious side. One where the natural and the unseen converge in subtle and unsettling ways. Guests often notice reflections in the windows that do not match the room. Shadows move across the glass independently, taking shapes that resemble people, standing or pacing where no one is present. The effect is fleeting, vanishing the moment one turns to investigate, yet it leaves a lingering awareness that the lodge exists in layers beyond ordinary perception. The reflection seems to observe, a silent presence mirrored in the still surfaces. The corridors of Cypress River Lodge carry a quiet energy. Soft footsteps echo along polished floors, sometimes matching the pace of those walking nearby, and at other times moving against the flow of human traffic. The sound is gentle, deliberate, and strangely familiar, as though the lodge itself remembers past movements. Guests report that it can be difficult to tell whether they are hearing their own footsteps or those of another, and this uncertainty contributes to a sense of suspended reality within the building. Cold spots appear unpredictably throughout the lodge. A sudden chill may brush across the skin in an empty room, lingering just long enough to draw attention. It is never threatening, merely noticeable, a reminder of the presence of forces unseen. Alongside these chills, some guests hear faint music drifting from rooms that appear empty. A distant melody that seems to originate from another time. The notes are soft, almost ethereal, blending with the sounds of the river outside to create a haunting yet beautiful ambience. The architecture of the lodge amplifies its mysterious qualities. Narrow hallways wind unexpectedly, and staircases creak as if carrying the weight of unseen travelers. Doorways frame spaces that appear larger or differently shaped when observed from varying angles. Shadows stretch and shift in response to light, and corners seem to hold more depth than the eye can perceive. Every element, from the placement of furniture to the pattern of the floorboards, contributes to the sense that Cypress River Lodge is alive, responsive, and aware. Rooms themselves carry an intimate sense of interaction. Furniture may shift subtly overnight. A chair angled differently. A blanket smoothed or disturbed. Windows sometimes reveal fleeting glimpses of figures in mirrored reflections. And the soft sounds of conversation or laughter echo faintly through the walls. These experiences are immersive, leaving guests with the impression that the lodge participates in the night's events, creating a shared space between the living and the unseen. Creating a shared space between the living and the unseen. The river outside provides a constant backdrop to the loggia's phenomena. Its waters glimmer under moonlight, reflecting both the cypress trees and the lodge itself. On particularly still nights, the reflections seem to contain movement independent of the natural world, suggesting presence and continuity beyond human perception. The rhythm of the river blends with the footsteps, whispers, and music within, weaving together an ambient tapestry of sound and motion that is both captivating and unsettling. Time within Cypress River Lodge feels altered. Moments stretch and compress unpredictably, and repetitive sounds can give the impression of cycles repeating. Footsteps, whispers, and music may echo events from nights long past, as if the lodge preserves memory in the form of sound and movement. Guests often describe a sensation of copyright déjà vu, where familiar patterns return with subtle variations, heightening the sense of a space existing in multiple layers simultaneously. Despite the subtle unease, the lodge maintains an atmosphere of dignity and calm. The figures in reflections, the footsteps in corridors, and the faint music are not threatening but observant, reflective, and deeply rooted in the history of the place. Visitors sense that Cypress River Lodge acknowledges their presence without intrusion, offering an experience that is contemplative, immersive, and quietly extraordinary. Every detail contributes to a living narrative, a story composed of shadows, reflections, and echoes of memory. By dawn, the sounds settle, shadows retreat, and the river flows calmly without hint of the night's activity. Rooms return to their ordinary appearance, and the lodge seems tranquil once more. Yet the impressions remain, etched into the awareness of guests who have sensed the subtle movements, fleeting reflections, and soft music of the previous night. Cypress River Lodge is a place remembered not only for its comfort and scenery but for the quiet, persistent presence that inhabits every corridor, window, and room. Cypress River Lodge is more than a riverside retreat. It is a living space where memory, observation, and unseen presence converge. Guests leave with the knowledge that the lodge continues to watch, listen, and quietly interact. A testament to the enduring resonance of the past and the subtle mysteries that flow through spaces shaped by time, water, and human experience. Whispering Pines Inn stands quietly at the edge of a dense forest. The trees themselves seem to hum, a constant whispering that carries through the grounds and into the inn's halls. Visitors often remark on the way the forest feels alive, as if the trees are watching and listening, their movements orchestrated by some unseen rhythm that predates the building itself. The inn's architecture blends rustic charm with a subtle elegance. Dark wooden beams support high ceilings, and wide hallways stretch between rooms in patterns that feel familiar yet slightly disorienting. Light filters through tall windows, casting long, shifting shadows across the polished floors. Even during the day, the whispers of the pines seem to penetrate the walls, and guests describe a quiet unease as though the inn itself is alive with memories. Voices echo along the corridors at night. They are faint at first, indistinct fragments of conversation. But they grow clearer as the darkness deepens. Guests have reported hearing discussions of events that occurred long ago. Words spoken with the weight of time and emotion. These voices are never hostile. Yet they carry a presence that is impossible to ignore. The effect is subtle, drawing attention to the unseen, and leaving a lingering impression that remains even after leaving the inn. The rooms of Whispering Pines Inn are arranged with care and attention to comfort, yet subtle oddities are noticed by those who stay. Furniture may be shifted slightly from its original position. Doors left ajar when they were previously closed. Or a cold draft drifting through a space with no open windows. These minor disturbances suggest movement and presence, yet no one is visible. Guests often describe a feeling of being accompanied by unseen company. A sensation both intriguing and unnerving. At night, the river that winds near the inn becomes a focal point for those staying on the grounds. Shadows appear along the banks, elongated by the moonlight and the rippling surface of the water. Travelers speak of seeing forms that move deliberately yet vanish when approached, figures that seem to observe from the darkness before slipping back into the forest. The interplay of light, water, and shadow creates a hauntingly beautiful scene, one that lingers in memory long after morning arrives. The whispering of the pines continues inside the inn, carried on the currents of air that move through hallways and rooms. Guests often pause to listen, noticing subtle shifts in sound as though the voices respond to their presence. Steps on creaking floors echo differently than expected, and soft murmurs float from corners or stairwells that appear empty. Soft murmurs float from corners or stairwells that appear empty. It is a space where the ordinary rules of perception are challenged, where attention to detail becomes a form of participation in the inn's quiet narrative. Where attention to detail becomes a form of participation in the inn's quiet narrative. Even the smallest objects within the inn contribute to its mysterious atmosphere. Curtains sway as though brushed by invisible hands, and polished surfaces reflect shapes that do not belong to the living. Curtains sway as though brushed by invisible hands, and polished surfaces reflect shapes that do not belong to the living. These details are subtle, never overtly alarming, yet they create a sense of continuous presence, a feeling that the inn is more than walls and floors. It is a repository of memory, echoing the lives and emotions of those who have come before. It is a repository of memory, echoing the lives and emotions of those who have come before. Guests often report moments of profound awareness when the inn's mysteries are most apparent. A soft creak in a hallway might precede a whispered phrase. A shadow glimpsed at the edge of a window may pause in recognition before disappearing. The river, the forest, and the building itself seem to operate in quiet harmony, creating an experience that is both immersive and enduring. Observers describe a sensation of being watched without fear, a careful invitation to notice, reflect, and engage with the unseen elements around them. The inn's reputation has grown from stories passed quietly among travelers and locals. Accounts of whispering voices, moving shadows, and fleeting river figures have woven themselves into the identity of Whispering Pines Inn. Visitors arrive expecting comfort and solitude but find themselves encountering layers of experience that blend memory, perception, and the gentle presence of something beyond the ordinary. It is a place where the past lingers and the forest itself becomes an extension of the inn's character. Visitors arrive expecting comfort and solitude but find themselves encountering layers of experience that blend memory, perception, and the gentle presence of something beyond the ordinary. It is a place where the past lingers and the forest itself becomes an extension of the inn's character. Even during daytime, subtle hints of the inn's mysteries remain. The rustle of pines carries over the sound of footsteps, faint shadows linger in the corners of rooms. And the river reflects shapes that seem to move independently. The interplay of nature and architecture creates an atmosphere where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Guests learn quickly to respect the quiet rhythm of the inn, to listen to the whispers, observe the shadows, and move with awareness through the halls. Whispering Pines Inn is not a place of fear, but a space of reflection and quiet curiosity. Visitors leave carrying impressions of the forest's murmurs, the soft voices in the hallways, and the fleeting figures by the river. Each guest becomes part of the ongoing narrative of the inn, adding their own presence to the layers of observation and memory that define the space. It is a place where the unseen is acknowledged, where attention to detail reveals subtle beauty, and where the past and present converge in a harmonious yet mysterious dialogue. The experience of staying at Whispering Pines Inn lingers long after departure. Every creak, whisper, and shadow becomes a part of memory. A quiet story etched into the consciousness of those who witnessed it. The river continues to reflect its secrets. And the inn stands patiently, holding its stories and waiting for the next guest to enter and become part of its enduring, whispering narrative. Foggy Shore Hotel stands at the edge of a wide, slow-moving river, its weathered stone walls and dark timbered beams blending into the dense morning mist. By day, the building appears serene, perched above the water with balconies that overlook the rippling surface. Trees along the bank sway gently, and the faint scent of wet earth drifts across the hotel grounds. Yet when night falls, the atmosphere changes. A creeping fog slips through the hallways, bringing with it the sense that the hotel is alive with unseen eyes and untold stories. The mist moves with deliberate patience, curling into rooms and sliding beneath doors. Guests awake to find windows fogged from within, and the air carries a chill that feels intentional rather than natural. Footsteps echo softly along the corridors, though no one else is present. The sound is not abrupt or startling, but measured, as if the building itself is moving in quiet rhythm. Observers often describe a sensation of being watched, accompanied by a deep awareness of the hotel's history. Whispers follow the fog through the rooms. They repeat phrases long forgotten, fragments of conversations from years past. Some speak of love, others of sorrow, while a few remain unintelligible, haunting in their vagueness. The murmurs are gentle at first, barely audible above the creaking floorboards and distant water, then they grow with persistence, filling the room with an almost tangible presence. Guests pause to listen, feeling as though the walls themselves are recounting memories they cannot fully understand. Shadows stretch and shift across walls in ways that defy expectation. They appear long and thin in one moment, then condense and move independently of light sources. Guests have reported seeing shapes that suggest figures standing in corners, only for them to vanish when approached. The play of fog, candlelight, and shadow creates a sense of layered reality, a blending of what is and what might have been. It is both mesmerizing and unsettling, compelling observers to move cautiously, aware that the hotel holds more than mere rooms and furnishings. The architecture of Foggy Shore Hotel amplifies every sensation. High ceilings allow whispers to travel farther. Winding staircases create echoing sounds that seem to come from unexpected directions. Narrow hallways cast long shadows that merge with the creeping fog. Windows reflect faint glimmers of light from the river, transforming ordinary corridors into spaces alive with shifting silhouettes. Each corner, each doorway, becomes a place where memory and perception intersect. Guests often notice subtle movements in objects. Chairs shift slightly when unobserved, curtains sway without a breeze, and doors gently open and close on their own. These actions are never violent or aggressive. Instead, they contribute to the overarching sense that the hotel remembers, that it is an entity connected to the lives that passed through its halls long ago. The interplay of sound, shadow, and mist creates an immersive atmosphere, encouraging careful observation and a quiet reverence for the space. The river itself plays a central role in the experience. Its surface mirrors the moonlight, casting distorted reflections into the rooms. While the fog rising from its waters seems to carry fragments of past events. It is as if the hotel and the water are linked, their stories intertwined. And the fog serves as a bridge between them. Guests report hearing distant laughter or the sound of oars in the mist, even when the river is perfectly still. Night deepens the mysteries. Shadows lengthen and multiply, whispers grow more persistent, and the mist thickens until the boundaries between walls and water blur. The fog seems to pulse with the rhythms of memory, echoing with the presence of those who came before. Guests feel a quiet connection to the past, as if walking in the footsteps of countless others who experienced similar wonder and unease. The hotel communicates subtly, through movement, sound, and the intangible sense of being observed. Despite the eeriness, Foggy Shore Hotel is not malevolent. Its presence is patient, deliberate, and immersive. Visitors are encouraged to notice the smallest details, from the pattern of shadows to the tone of whispered words. Discovering a deeper understanding of a place that preserves memory rather than haunting for its own sake. The hotel rewards attention with a sense of wonder, offering glimpses into lives once lived and experiences long past, captured in mist, wood, and stone. As dawn breaks, the fog recedes and the river reflects the rising sun. Shadows fade, whispers quiet, and the corridors return to their daytime calm. The impression of night remains. Guests depart carrying the feeling of having been part of a living history, of having witnessed a space where past and present coexist. The memory of fog, whispers, and shifting shadows lingers, leaving an indelible mark that is felt long after the visit. Foggy Shore Hotel endures as a place where the unseen is remembered, and the echo of lives past resonates in every room and along every corridor. Where whispers carry meaning beyond comprehension, and where the river and the hotel together create a living tableau of history. Inviting all who enter to observe, reflect, and experience the mystery that has endured for generations. Magnolia mist rises quietly from the fog-laden landscape. Surrounded by tall magnolia trees whose leaves glisten with dew even in the absence of rain. The building's whitewashed walls and dark timber accents are softened by the lingering mist, creating an atmosphere both serene and unsettling. Visitors immediately sense that the inn is more than a resting place. It is a living entity, attentive to every step, every whisper, and every movement within its walls. Lanterns swing gently along the outer porches and corridors, yet the air is still. Yet they sway with a rhythm that seems deliberate, as if the inn itself breathes. As if the inn itself breathes, guests often pause to watch the lanterns, sensing that the subtle movement is a form of communication, a quiet signal from something unseen. Shadows twist and stretch across walls, responding to the faint glow, creating patterns that hint at a presence just beyond perception. Figures occasionally appear at the windows. At first, they are glimpsed from the corner of the eye, fleeting forms that vanish when attention is directed toward them. They are human in shape, yet indistinct, like memories solidified into brief vision. Guests report the unsettling sensation of being observed, the feeling that someone or something watches silently from within the rooms, waiting until the observer looks away. The figures do not threaten, but their presence leaves a lingering tension, a reminder that the inn is alive with unseen eyes. The figures do not threaten, but their presence leaves a lingering tension, a reminder that the inn is alive with unseen eyes. Cold drafts move through hallways and rooms without origin. They brush past guests as if someone unseen is walking alongside them, a subtle, icy touch that raises goosebumps. The drafts shift unpredictably, moving from corner to corner, appearing near doors or along staircases, leaving a sense of movement where nothing visible exists. Visitors describe the sensation as disorienting, a quiet reminder that the inn operates on a level beyond ordinary comprehension. The architecture of Magnolia Mist contributes to its uncanny ambience. Narrow hallways create pockets of stillness where whispers seem closer and shadows grow longer. Ornate moldings and aged furniture speak to a bygone era, yet they are preserved with care, blending history with the subtle tension of the present. Guests feel as though the building itself is an actor, shaping perception and experience through its structure and details. Windows overlooking the surrounding magnolia grove and mist-laden fields add to the inn's otherworldly quality. Reflections in glass sometimes reveal shapes that are not present in reality, fleeting movements at the edge of vision that disappear when approached. At night, moonlight illuminates the mist outside, casting shifting light across floors and walls, further blurring the line between interior and exterior. Guests are often captivated by the interplay of shadow and reflection, a visual echo of the inn's layered presence. Lanterns inside corridors create pools of soft light that guide movement while simultaneously amplifying mystery. Shadows extend and retract in subtle ways, seeming to respond to the presence of guests. Steps echo in empty hallways, giving the impression that movement is shared with unseen companions. Each sound, each subtle shift in light, enhances the sense of immersion, making guests acutely aware of the delicate balance between perception and reality within the inn. Making guests acutely aware of the delicate balance between perception and reality within the inn. Time behaves differently at Magnolia Mist Inn. Moments can stretch or compress, creating experiences that feel both elongated and fleeting. A walk through the corridors may take far longer than expected, while an evening spent observing a single room can pass unnoticed. The inn seems to modulate perception, drawing attention to small details and interactions that might otherwise be overlooked. Creating an environment where presence and observation are inseparable. The surrounding landscape enhances the inn's haunting atmosphere. Their movement whispers alongside the faint sounds within the building. Fleeting figures that vanish before recognition, leaving only the lingering impression of being part of a larger, unseen narrative. The inn does not frighten in conventional ways. There is no threat, only awareness. Guests feel a quiet tension, a heightened sense of observation and participation in a place that exists simultaneously in the present and in memory. The faint sounds, shifting shadows, and fleeting figures encourage attentiveness, drawing visitors into the inn's rhythm. Observation becomes a form of interaction, and interaction becomes an experience that lingers long after departure. By dawn, the mist begins to lift, lanterns settle, and shadows grow less pronounced. Figures at the windows disappear, cold drafts fade, and the inn assumes a calm and orderly appearance. Yet the impressions remain of the swaying lanterns, the fleeting forms, the subtle touches of presence leave traces in memory. Guests depart forever changed, carrying the quiet awareness that some places exist beyond conventional understanding, spaces where perception, history, and unseen presences converge. Magnolia Mist Inn endures as a living environment, a space where light, shadow, and atmosphere interact to create an immersive experience. Its swaying lanterns, ghostly figures, and cold drafts convey subtle messages that encourage reflection and observation. Visitors leave with memories that cannot be fully explained but must be felt, reminding all who enter that the inn is more than a building. It is an entity, a presence, a space where the ordinary and extraordinary converge to create a lasting impression. Cypress River Lodge stands nestled among towering cypress trees, their branches draping over the calm waters of the river below. By day, it appears serene, a quiet retreat for travelers seeking comfort and solitude. But as twilight settles, the lodge begins to reveal a more mysterious side, one where the natural and the unseen converge in subtle and unsettling ways. Guests often notice reflections in the windows that do not match the room. Shadows move across the glass independently, taking shapes that resemble people, standing or pacing where no one is present. The effect is fleeting, vanishing the moment one turns to investigate, yet it leaves a lingering awareness that the lodge exists in layers beyond ordinary perception. The reflection seems to observe, a silent presence mirrored in the still surfaces. The corridors of Cypress River Lodge carry a quiet energy. Soft footsteps echo along polished floors, sometimes matching the pace of those walking nearby, and at other times moving against the flow of human traffic. The sound is gentle, deliberate, and strangely familiar, as though the lodge itself remembers past movements. Guests report that it can be difficult to tell whether they are hearing their own footsteps or those of another. And this uncertainty contributes to a sense of suspended reality within the building. Cold spots appear unpredictably throughout the lodge. A sudden chill may brush across the skin in an empty room, lingering just long enough to draw attention. It is never threatening, merely noticeable, a reminder of the presence of forces unseen. Alongside these chills, some guests hear faint music drifting from rooms that appear empty, a distant melody that seems to originate from another time. The notes are soft, almost ethereal, blending with the sounds of the river outside to create a haunting yet beautiful ambience. The architecture of the lodge amplifies its mysterious qualities. Narrow hallways wind unexpectedly, and staircases creak as if carrying the weight of unseen travelers. Doorways frame spaces that appear larger or differently shaped when observed from varying angles. Shadows stretch and shift in response to light, and corners seem to hold more depth than the eye can perceive. Every element, from the placement of furniture to the pattern of the floorboards, contributes to the sense that Cypress River Lodge is alive, responsive, and aware. Rooms themselves carry an intimate sense of interaction. Furniture may shift subtly overnight, a chair angled differently. A chair angled differently, a blanket smoothed or disturbed. Windows sometimes reveal fleeting glimpses of figures in mirrored reflections, and the soft sounds of conversation or laughter echo faintly through the walls. These experiences are immersive, leaving guests with the impression that the lodge participates in the Natchez events, creating a shared space between the living and the unseen. The river outside provides a constant backdrop to the loggia's phenomena. Its waters glimmer under moonlight, reflecting both the cypress trees and the lodge itself. On particularly still nights, the reflections seem to contain movement independent of the natural world, suggesting presence and continuity beyond human perception. The rhythm of the river blends with the footsteps, whispers, and music within, weaving together an ambient tapestry of sound and motion that is both captivating and unsettling. Time within Cypress River Lodge feels altered. Moments stretch and compress unpredictably. And repetitive sounds can give the impression of cycles repeating. Footsteps, whispers, and music may echo events from nights long past. As if the lodge preserves memory in the form of sound and movement. Guests often describe a sensation of copyright déjà vu, where familiar patterns return with subtle variations, heightening the sense of a space existing in multiple layers simultaneously. Despite the subtle unease, the lodge maintains an atmosphere of dignity and calm. The figures in reflections, the footsteps in corridors, and the faint music are not threatening but observant, reflective, and deeply rooted in the history of the place. Visitors sense that Cypress River Lodge acknowledges their presence without intrusion, offering an experience that is contemplative, immersive, and quietly extraordinary. Every detail contributes to a living narrative, a story composed of shadows, reflections, and echoes of memory. By dawn, the sounds settle, shadows retreat, and the river flows calmly without hint of the Natchez activity. Rooms return to their ordinary appearance, and the lodge seems tranquil once more. Yet the impressions remain, etched into the awareness of guests who have sensed the subtle movements, fleeting reflections, and soft music of the previous night. Cypress River Lodge is a place remembered not only for its comfort and scenery but for the quiet, persistent presence that inhabits every corridor, window, and room. Cypress River Lodge is a place remembered not only for its comfort and scenery but for the quiet, persistent presence that inhabits every corridor, window, and room. Cypress River Lodge is more than a riverside retreat. It is a living space where memory, observation, and unseen presence converge. Guests leave with the knowledge that the lodge continues to watch, listen, and quietly interact. A testament to the enduring resonance of the past and the subtle mysteries that flow through spaces shaped by time, water, and human experience. Cypress River Lodge rests quietly among towering cypress trees, their branches dipping toward the slow, winding river. By day, it appears serene, a refuge for travelers seeking comfort and the soft rhythm of water. Yet as twilight descends, the lodge begins to reveal an unseen layer, one where the ordinary and the mysterious coexist in subtle, lingering ways. Windows often betray the presence of something unusual. Reflections appear in glass that do not correspond to anyone in the room. Figures move with quiet deliberation, pacing or standing still, only to vanish the moment a guest looks directly. The effect is fleeting but unmistakable, leaving the impression that the lodge is observing those within, a silent witness to every movement. The corridors hold a peculiar energy. Soft footsteps echo along polished floors. Sometimes mirroring the pace of a guest, other times moving independently. As if the building itself carries unseen travelers. The sound is gentle yet persistent, blurring the line between what is real and what is sensed. Guests often pause, uncertain whether the noise comes from their own steps or from another presence entirely. Deepening the atmosphere of mystery. Chills sweep through certain rooms unpredictably. A sudden cold spot brushes across skin without warning, lingering just long enough to be noticed. Alongside this, faint music occasionally drifts through empty halls. Notes from a distant piano or strings echo softly, seeming to emerge from nowhere. The melody is ephemeral, haunting, yet strangely comforting. Entwining with the gentle murmur of the river outside to create an ambient presence that feels both alive and ancient. The architecture amplifies these sensations. Hallways twist unexpectedly, staircases groan under invisible weight. And corners seem to hold more depth than the eye can measure. Shadows stretch and twist in ways that defy expectation. Doorways frame spaces that appear slightly larger or altered depending on where one stands. Every element of the lodge, from its furniture to its floorboards, seems attuned to the movements and presence of both the living and the unseen. Rooms themselves carry an intimate sense of interaction. Chairs may be slightly angled, beds appear subtly disturbed, blankets shifted. Guests sometimes glimpse figures in reflections, their shapes indistinct yet unmistakably there. These experiences leave visitors with the impression that the lodge is actively engaged, a participant in the unfolding night. The river outside provides a constant rhythm. Its waters reflect both the trees and the lodge. And on still nights, the reflections seem to move with their own life. The sound of flowing water blends seamlessly with footsteps, whispers, and music within. Creating a layered, immersive soundscape that heightens the sense of being in a place where time and space are subtly altered. Time within Cypress River Lodge often feels fluid. Moments stretch and contract, and repeated sounds appear as echoes of events long past. Footsteps may replay themselves with slight variations, whispers shift and evolve, and music carries hints of melodies never heard before. Guests describe a feeling of overlapping moments, as if the lodge preserves memory in sound, movement, and subtle disturbances, folding the past into the present with every breath. Despite the uncanny atmosphere, the lodge remains dignified. The figures, whispers, and music are not threatening. They are observant, reflective, and present in a way that is quietly interactive. Guests sense acknowledgement rather than intrusion, an awareness that the lodge is aware of their presence and responding with gentle precision. Every creak, shadow, and faint note contributes to the narrative of a place alive with memory and subtle consciousness. By morning, the lodge settles. Shadows recede, music fades. And the river flows calmly without suggestion of last night's activity. Rooms appear ordinary once more. Yet the impression of the night lingers. Guests leave with a sense of having experienced something extraordinary, a gentle haunting that remains with them long after their departure. Cypress River Lodge is more than a riverside retreat. It is a living environment where observation, memory, and unseen presence converge. Guests leave knowing that the lodge continues to watch, listen, and interact in quiet ways. A testament to the enduring mysteries that inhabit spaces shaped by time, water, and human experience. Whispering Pines Inn stands quietly at the edge of a dense forest, surrounded by towering pines that sway gently in the wind. The trees themselves seem to hum, a constant whispering that carries through the grounds and into the inn's halls. Visitors often remark on the way the forest feels alive, as if the trees are watching and listening, their movements orchestrated by some unseen rhythm that predates the building itself. The inn's architecture blends rustic charm with a subtle elegance. Dark wooden beams support high ceilings, and wide hallways stretch between rooms in patterns that feel familiar yet slightly disorienting. Light filters through tall windows, casting long, shifting shadows across the polished floors. Even during the day, the whispers of the pines seem to penetrate the walls, and guests describe a quiet unease as though the inn itself is alive with memories. Voices echo along the corridors at night. They are faint at first, indistinct fragments of conversation, but they grow clearer as the darkness deepens. Guests have reported hearing discussions of events that occurred long ago, words spoken with the weight of time and emotion. These voices are never hostile, yet they carry a presence that is impossible to ignore. The effect is subtle, drawing attention to the unseen and leaving a lingering impression that remains even after leaving the inn. This lingering impression is a testament to the power of the voices, leaving the viewer with a sense of unease and a lingering question. The rooms of Whispering Pines Inn are arranged with care and attention to comfort. Yet subtle oddities are noticed by those who stay. Furniture may be shifted slightly from its original position, doors left ajar when they were previously closed, or a cold draft drifting through a space with no open windows. These minor disturbances suggest movement and presence, yet no one is visible. Guests often describe a feeling of being accompanied by unseen company. A sensation both intriguing and unnerving. At night, the river that winds near the inn becomes a focal point for those staying on the grounds. Travelers speak of seeing forms that move deliberately yet vanish when approached, figures that seem to observe from the darkness before slipping back into the forest. The interplay of light, water, and shadow creates a hauntingly beautiful scene, one that lingers in memory long after morning arrives. The whispering of the pines continues inside the inn, carried on the currents of air that move through hallways and rooms. Guests often pause to listen, noticing subtle shifts in sound as though the voices respond to their presence. Steps on creaking floors echo differently than expected, and soft murmurs float from corners or stairwells that appear empty. It is a space where the ordinary rules of perception are challenged, where attention to detail becomes a form of participation in the inn's quiet narrative. Even the smallest objects within the inn contribute to its mysterious atmosphere. Lamps flicker without reason, curtains sway as though brushed by invisible hands, and polished surfaces reflect shapes that do not belong to the living. These details are subtle, never overtly alarming, yet they create a sense of continuous presence, a feeling that the inn is more than walls and floors. It is a repository of memory, echoing the lives and emotions of those who have come before. Guests often report moments of profound awareness when the inn's mysteries are most apparent. A soft creak in a hallway might precede a whispered phrase. A shadow glimpsed at the edge of a window may pause in recognition before disappearing. The river, the forest, and the building itself seem to operate in quiet harmony, creating an experience that is both immersive and enduring. Observers describe a sensation of being watched without fear, a careful invitation to notice, reflect, and engage with the unseen elements around them. The inn's reputation has grown from stories passed quietly among travelers and locals. Visitors arrive expecting comfort and solitude but find themselves encountering layers of experience that blend memory, perception, and the gentle presence of something beyond the ordinary. That it is a place where the past lingers, and the forest itself becomes an extension of the inn's character of the forest. Even during daytime, subtle hints of the inn's mysteries remain. The rustle of pines carries over the sound of footsteps, faint shadows linger in the corners of rooms, and the river reflects shapes that seem to move independently. The interplay of nature and architecture creates an atmosphere where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Guests learn quickly to respect the quiet rhythm of the inn, to listen to the whispers, observe the shadows, and move with awareness through the halls. Whispering Pines Inn is not a place of fear, but a space of reflection and quiet curiosity. Visitors leave carrying impressions of the Forster's murmurs, the soft voices in the hallways, and the fleeting figures by the river. Each guest becomes part of the ongoing narrative of the inn, adding their own presence to the layers of observation and memory that define the space. It is a place where the unseen is acknowledged, where attention to detail reveals subtle beauty, and where the past and present converge in a harmonious yet mysterious dialogue. The experience of staying at Whispering Pines Inn lingers long after departure. Every creak, whisper, and shadow becomes a part of memory. A quiet story etched into the consciousness of those who witnessed it. The pines continue to sway and murmur. The river continues to reflect its secrets. And the inn stands patiently, holding its stories, waiting for the next guest to enter and become part of its enduring, whispering narrative. Whispering Pines Inn rests quietly at the edge of a dense forest, surrounded by towering pines that sway gently in the wind. The trees themselves seem to whisper, a constant hum that drifts through the grounds and into the inn's hallways. Visitors often describe the forest as alive, its movements deliberate, its presence both calming and unsettling, as though the trees are silently observing every step. The inn's architecture blends rustic charm with subtle elegance. Dark wooden beams support high ceilings, and long corridors stretch between rooms in patterns that feel familiar yet slightly disorienting. Light filters through tall windows, casting long shadows across polished floors. Even in daylight, the whispers of the pines seem to penetrate the walls, creating a quiet tension that hints at unseen presence. Voices echo through the corridors at night. They begin as faint fragments, indistinct conversations. Guests have reported hearing discussions of events from decades past. Words spoken with emotion and weight. The voices are not threatening, but their presence lingers, drawing attention to the unseen and leaving impressions that remain long after leaving the inn. The rooms are carefully arranged, yet subtle anomalies are noticed by attentive visitors. Furniture may be slightly shifted, doors left ajar, or a cold draft drift through spaces with no open windows. These minor disturbances suggest movement, presence, and observation, though no one is visible. Guests often sense unseen company, a feeling both intriguing and disquieting, as though the inn itself is aware of their presence. At night, the river near the inn becomes a focal point. Shadows appear along its banks, elongated by moonlight and reflected in the rippling water. Travelers describe forms moving deliberately, watching from the darkness, then vanishing when approached. The interplay of light, shadow, and reflection creates a haunting scene, lingering in memory long after dawn breaks. The whispering pines continue their quiet murmur inside the inn. Guests often pause, listening to subtle shifts in sound as though the voices respond to their presence. Steps echo differently than expected, soft murmurs drift from stairwells or corners that appear empty, and shadows play along walls in ways that challenge perception. The experience invites careful observation, engaging both the senses and the imagination. Small details heighten the inn's mysterious atmosphere. Lamps flicker without cause. Curtains sway as if brushed by invisible hands, and polished surfaces reflect shapes that do not belong to the living. These subtleties create a sense of continuous presence, a feeling that the inn is more than walls and floors. It is a keeper of memory, echoing lives and emotions of those who passed through before. Moments of heightened awareness occur when the inn's mysteries are most apparent. A creak in a hallway might precede a whispered phrase. A shadow glimpsed at the edge of a window may pause before vanishing. And the Rivera's reflection seems to shift independently of natural movement. Guests often describe feeling observed without fear, participating in an immersive narrative woven from light, shadow, and sound. The inn's reputation has grown from the quiet accounts of travelers and locals. Whispering voices, moving shadows, and fleeting figures by the river contribute. Visitors arrive expecting comfort and solitude but encounter layers of experience blending memory, perception, and gentle presence. Where every creak and whisper is part of a continuing story. Where past and present intertwine, where every creak and whisper is part of a continuing story. Whispering Pines Inn is a place where every creak and whisper is part of a continuing story. Even during the day, subtle hints of the inn's mysteries persist. The rustle of pines carries over footsteps, shadows linger in corners. And shadows linger in corners. And the river reflects forms that appear and vanish independently. Nature and architecture combine to create an atmosphere where ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Guests learn to move carefully, listen attentively, and observe with heightened awareness. Whispering Pines Inn is not a place of fear, but of reflection and curiosity. Visitors leave carrying impressions of the Forsta's murmurs, hallways filled with soft voices, and fleeting figures by the river. Each guest becomes part of the inn's ongoing narrative, adding presence to the layers of memory and observation that define it. It is a place where the unseen is acknowledged, where attention reveals subtle beauty, and where past and present meet in quiet harmony. Every creak, whisper, and shadow at Whispering Pines Inn leaves a lasting impression. The pines continue to sway and murmur. The river reflects hidden forms. And the inn patiently preserves its stories. Travelers depart with memories of an experience that transcends ordinary perception. A quiet narrative that endures and waits for the next visitor to become part of its mysterious and whispering world. Foggy Shore Hotel stands at the edge of a wide, slow-moving river, its weathered stone walls and dark timbered beams blending into the dense morning mist. By day, the building appears serene, perched above the water with balconies that overlook the rippling surface. Trees along the bank sway gently, and the faint scent of wet earth drifts across the hotel grounds. Yet when night falls, the atmosphere changes. A creeping fog slips through the hallways, bringing with it the sense that the hotel is alive with unseen eyes and untold stories. The mist moves with deliberate patience, curling into rooms and sliding beneath doors. Guests awake to find windows fogged from within. And the air carries a chill that feels intentional rather than natural. Footsteps echo softly along the corridors, though no one else is present. The sound is not abrupt or startling, but measured, as if the building itself is moving in quiet rhythm. Observers often describe a sensation of being watched, accompanied by a deep awareness of the hotel's history. Whispers follow the fog through the rooms. They repeat phrases long forgotten, fragments of conversations from years past. Some speak of love, others of sorrow, while a few remain unintelligible, haunting in their vagueness. The murmurs are gentle at first, barely audible above the creaking floorboards and distant water, then they grow with persistence, filling the room with an almost tangible presence. Guests pause to listen, feeling as though the walls themselves are recounting memories they cannot fully understand. Shadows stretch and shift across walls in ways that defy expectation. They appear long and thin in one moment, then condense and move independently of light sources. Guests have reported seeing shapes that suggest figures standing in corners, only for them to vanish when approached. The play of fog, candlelight, and shadow creates a sense of layered reality, a blending of what is and what might have been. It is both mesmerizing and unsettling, compelling observers to move cautiously, aware that the hotel holds more than mere rooms and furnishings. The architecture of Foggy Shore Hotel amplifies every sensation. High ceilings allow whispers to travel farther, winding staircases create echoing sounds that seem to come from unexpected directions. Winding staircases create echoing sounds that seem to come from unexpected directions, and narrow hallways cast long shadows that merge with the creeping fog. Narrow hallways cast long shadows that merge with the creeping fog. Windows reflect faint glimmers of light from the river. Windows reflect faint glimmers of light from the river, transforming ordinary corridors into spaces alive with shifting silhouettes. Each corner, each doorway, becomes a place where memory and perception intersect. Guests often notice subtle movements in objects. Chairs shift slightly when unobserved. Curtains sway without a breeze. And doors gently open and close on their own. These actions are never violent or aggressive. Instead, they contribute to the overarching sense that the hotel remembers. That it is an entity connected to the lives that passed through its halls long ago. The interplay of sound, shadow, and mist creates an immersive atmosphere, encouraging careful observation and a quiet reverence for the space. That the hotel remembers, that it is an entity connected to the lives that passed through its halls long ago. The river itself plays a central role in the experience. Its surface mirrors the moonlight, casting distorted reflections into the rooms. While the fog rising from its waters seems to carry fragments of past events. It is as if the hotel and the water are linked, their stories intertwined. And the fog serves as a bridge between them. And the fog serves as a bridge between them. Night deepens the mysteries. Shadows lengthen and multiply, whispers grow more persistent, and the mist thickens until the boundaries between walls and water blur. The fog seems to pulse with the rhythms of memory, echoing with the presence of those who came before. Guests feel a quiet connection to the past, as if walking in the footsteps of countless others who experienced similar wonder and unease. The hotel communicates subtly, through movement, sound, and the intangible sense of being observed. Despite the eeriness, Foggy Shore Hotel is not malevolent. Its presence is patient, deliberate, and immersive. Visitors are encouraged to notice the smallest details, from the pattern of shadows to the tone of whispered words, discovering a deeper understanding of a place that preserves memory rather than haunting for its own sake. The hotel rewards attention with a sense of wonder, offering glimpses into lives once lived and experiences long past, captured in mist, wood, and stone. As dawn breaks, the fog recedes and the river reflects the rising sun. Shadows fade, whispers quiet, and the corridors return to their daytime calm. Yet the impression of night remains. Guests depart carrying the feeling of having been part of a living history. Of having witnessed a space where past and present coexist. The memory of fog, whispers, and shifting shadows lingers, leaving an indelible mark that is felt long after the visit. Foggy Shore Hotel endures as a place where the unseen is remembered. And the echo of lives past resonates in every room. And along every corridor. Where memory manifests in fog and shadow. Where whispers carry meaning beyond comprehension. And where the river and the hotel together create a living tableau of history. Inviting all who enter to observe, reflect, and experience the mystery that has endured for generations. Willow Whisper Inn rests quietly along the banks of a winding river, its timbered walls and gently sloping roofs mirrored in the water below. By day, it appears a serene retreat, with willows swaying softly and the scent of damp earth drifting through the air. Yet as night falls, the inn transforms into a place where shadows linger and whispers carry the weight of time. Guests often awaken to find doors ajar, even if they had locked them before sleep. The soft creak of hinges travels through empty hallways. And long shadows stretch across polished floors. It is never violent, only subtle, as if the inn itself is gently asserting its presence. Observers feel watched without seeing anyone, aware of something unseen moving silently around them. The walls seem to murmur. Faint voices rise and fall, repeating fragments of long-forgotten conversations. Laughter, arguments, soft sighs, and whispers echo through the corridors, sometimes forming patterns that feel eerily deliberate. Guests lean close to listen, only for the sounds to vanish when examined directly. It is as though the inn remembers, holding fragments of lives long past within its very structure. Near the Rivera's edge, fleeting figures have been glimpsed through the mist. Shapes appear and vanish among the reeds, reflections dancing on the water. Some seem to pause, standing silently as if waiting. Then disappear when approached. They are neither threatening nor fully visible, but their presence leaves an impression that lingers in the mind. A reminder of stories tied to the river and the inn for generations. The inn's architecture amplifies these phenomena. Narrow hallways and high ceilings carry sounds in unusual ways, making whispers seem near and far simultaneously. Windows reflect moonlight, illuminating corners that appear occupied by shapes that vanish when observed. Each room, hallway, and staircase contributes to the sensation that past and present coexist in the space, weaving a tapestry of memory that is both beautiful and haunting. Subtle movements reinforce the sense of life within the inn. Chairs shift slightly when unobserved, small objects change position. And curtains sway without a breeze. Guests report feeling brushes against their arms or shoulders. Never harmful, only present, as if unseen hands guide their attention. Every detail adds to the impression that Willow Whisper Inn is aware of those who wander its corridors. The river itself plays a central role in the inn's mystery. Its calm surface mirrors the moonlight, casting distorted reflections into rooms. While the fog rolling from its waters carries whispers, ripples, and shadows of the past. Sounds of distant laughter or the gentle lap of oars sometimes reach the ears of guests, even when no one is near. It is as though the inn and the river are connected, sharing and preserving memories. Night intensifies the phenomena. Shadows stretch and shift. Whispers rise in complexity. And the fog thickens until walls, floors, and riverbank blend into one indistinct space. Guests feel themselves part of a continuum, walking among the echoes of lives that once moved through the inn. Every footstep, glance, and sound becomes a link between past and present. Guests feel themselves part of a continuum, walking among the echoes of lives that once moved through the inn. Despite its eerie qualities, Willow Whisper Inn is not malevolent. Its presence is subtle, immersive, and deliberate. Those who pay attention discover stories preserved in wood, stone, and mist. Learning to appreciate the quiet beauty of a place that remembers its past. Visitors find a strange comfort in the balance between mystery and memory. Where subtlety conveys more than fear ever could. By dawn, the fog recedes, the river reflects sunlight, and shadows retreat into corners. The whispers fade, leaving the halls calm and inviting once more. Yet the impressions of night remain. Guests leave carrying a sense of having walked among memories, having touched a space where time bends and history persists in unseen ways. Willow Whisper Inn endures as a bridge between eras. Every room, hallway, and riverbank holds fragments of life preserved in sound, movement, and shadow. Visitors depart with more than recollections. They carry the sense of having witnessed a living memory, a place where past and present converge. And where the whispers of the inn continue long after they have gone. Foggy Bay Lodge rests quietly along the riverbank, its dark timbered structure emerging from the swirling mist like a silhouette in a dream. The water laps gently against the shore, reflecting the gray fog that clings to the landscape. The air is thick and cool, carrying with it the faint scent of damp earth and riverweed. Guests arriving in the early evening find the lodge at once inviting and unsettling, its lights glowing warmly through the haze while shadows stretch in every direction. The wooden floors of the lodge creak underfoot, amplifying the smallest sounds into echoes that fill empty hallways. Guests often report hearing steps that mirror their own movements, yet no one is visible. The echoes begin softly, almost imperceptibly, and then grow with a rhythm that matches the pulse of the observer. There is no malice in the sound, only presence, as if the lodge itself remembers every step ever taken along its boards. Windows reflect the river in ways that are both beautiful and unnerving. At night, shapes appear on the surface of the water that vanish when looked at directly. Figures emerge, indistinct but human in form, shifting and flickering like a memory made visible. The reflections seem to move independently of the Riviera's gentle current, sliding across the surface as if seeking something beyond the eye's reach. Some guests describe watching for hours, captivated by the fleeting, impossible vision, feeling simultaneously drawn in and unsettled. Lanterns along the corridors cast a soft, golden glow that flickers against the walls, emphasizing the textures of the aged wood and worn stone. Guests pause frequently, unsure whether what they see is a trick of light or something else entirely. Even the silence of the lodge carries weight, punctuated by distant thumps, whispers of wind, or the occasional murmur of water flowing outside. The rooms themselves are furnished with a careful blend of elegance and antiquity. Heavy curtains frame tall windows, soft carpets dampen footsteps, and polished furniture gleams under the dim light. Some guests feel a brush of air against the back of their necks, others notice objects that seem slightly out of place when they return to a room. These subtle disturbances never alarm but always provoke heightened awareness, a recognition that the lodge holds secrets beyond explanation. The river outside mirrors the atmosphere within. Calm yet unpredictable. It reflects shapes, lanterns, and shadows that do not belong. Mist drifts across its surface, curling around darkened corners of the lodge. And clinging to the shore. On certain nights, the fog thickens, swallowing the water and lodge alike. Leaving guests with the sensation that they are suspended between worlds, neither fully grounded nor entirely lost. The environment amplifies perception, making every sound and shadow significant. Corridors in the lodge twist and turn in ways that disorient new arrivals. Hallways that seem straight at first glance can curve subtly, leading to rooms that feel familiar yet different. Stairs creak under weight that is not always visible. Guests find themselves relying on intuition rather than logic. Moving carefully as they navigate the building. The lodge encourages observation, rewarding attentiveness with moments that are fleeting but unforgettable. Night deepens, and the lodge transforms. The fog outside thickens, muffling distant sounds and isolating the building in its own world. Footsteps grow more distinct, reflections on the river more pronounced, and the subtle movements within the hallways gain presence. Guests often describe the sensation of being watched, of sharing the space with unseen companions. The effect is not threatening but immersive, creating a delicate tension that draws attention to every detail of the surroundings. Time behaves differently at Foggy Bay Lodge. Moments can stretch or compress, making hours feel like minutes and minutes feel like hours. Guests notice that returning to the same spot twice may feel unfamiliar, as if the lodge shifts when unobserved. These temporal anomalies heighten awareness, deepening the sense that the lodge exists both within the physical world and slightly beyond it, in a realm where perception and memory intertwine. By dawn, the fog begins to lift, revealing the river and surrounding landscape in soft daylight. Shadows retreat, reflections become ordinary, and the echoes of footsteps fade into silence. Yet the experiences linger, etched in memory as a series of subtle, unforgettable impressions. The lodge leaves its mark on those who stay, a quiet awareness of a place that is alive, perceptive, and intertwined with both history and the inexplicable. Foggy Bay Lodge endures as a space where environment, perception, and presence converge. Its mist-shrouded river, flickering lanterns, echoing hallways, and shifting reflections create an immersive experience that is both serene and mysterious. Its mist-shrouded river, flickering lanterns, echoing hallways, and shifting reflections create an immersive experience that is both serene and mysterious. Guests depart carrying memories that cannot be fully explained, impressions of being part of a story that extends beyond the ordinary. The lodge stands as a testament to the power of atmosphere, observation, and the quiet intersections between the visible and invisible. The lodge stands as a testament to the power of atmosphere, observation, and the quiet intersections between the visible and invisible. The lodge stands as a testament to the power of atmosphere, observation, and the quiet intersections between the visible and invisible. Its mist-shrouded river, flickering lanterns, echoing hallways, and shifting reflections create an immersive experience that is both serene and mysterious. The lodge stands as a testament to the power of atmosphere, observation, and the quiet intersections between the visible and invisible. The lodge stands as a testament to the power of atmosphere, observation, and the quiet intersections between the visible and invisible. Each visit to Foggy Bay Lodge becomes a journey into subtle mystery, where the senses are heightened, shadows and reflections gain meaning, and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. Where the senses are heightened, shadows and reflections gain meaning, and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. And the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. It is a place where whispers of the past blend with the present. Where whispers of the past blend with the present, where unseen presences leave their mark. Where unseen presences leave their mark, and where every step and glance offers the possibility of discovery. And where every step and glance offers the possibility of discovery. For those who enter, the lodge is not just a destination. The lodge is not just a destination, but an experience that lingers long after the mist has lifted. Whispering Waters Inn stands on the edge of a winding river, its stone and timber facade reflecting the last light of day. From a distance, it appears tranquil, a retreat for travelers seeking quiet and comfort. Yet those who cross its threshold at night enter a space where the natural world and the unseen intertwine. Where whispers linger in the air and the ordinary becomes uncertain. Guests often speak of hearing voices from the walls, soft murmurs that rise and fall like the gentle movement of the river beside the inn. The whispers are fleeting, impossible to locate, yet unmistakably present. They echo through hallways, bend around corners, and sometimes repeat fragments of conversations that seem familiar, though impossible to place. The effect is disorienting, leaving visitors aware of being observed in a place that feels alive with memory and attention. Figures appear along corridors, often seen at the edge of vision. They stand or move with quiet purpose, then vanish the instant approached. Some guests catch glimpses in mirrors or at the end of a hallway, only to find nothing when they turn. The presence is subtle but persistent, suggesting a continuity of observation that stretches beyond the physical structure of the inn itself. Rooms carry their own secrets. Beds may appear subtly disturbed. Chairs angled slightly differently. Doors left open without explanation. Guests awaken to find their rooms altered. Small changes that are never threatening, yet impossible to ignore. Yet impossible to ignore. The adjustments feel intentional. As if somania or somthinga is interacting with the space, guiding it to align with patterns that are unseen and unknown. The architecture of Whispering Waters Inn contributes to the uncanny atmosphere. Narrow hallways twist unexpectedly, staircases creak without weight. And staircases creak without weight, and shadows cling to corners. Shadows cling to corners, stretching and shifting with the dimming of lights. Windows reflect forms that do not belong to any living person, creating a layered perception of reality where past and present seem to coexist. Every element of the building, from the floorboards to the high ceilings, amplifies the sense that the inn is attentive, responsive, and quietly alive. The river itself plays a central role in the inn's presence. Its waters flow steadily through the night, carrying sound and motion beyond the walls of the building. On quiet nights, the murmurs of the inn seem to blend with the gentle current, extending the whispers outward and intertwining the natural and supernatural. The interplay of water and sound creates an immersive environment where the boundaries between inside and outside, between observer and observed, are softened and uncertain. Time within the inn feels altered. Minutes stretch, sounds repeat, and the echoes of footsteps or whispers may linger longer than expected. Guests describe moments of copyright déjà vu, hearing a phrase repeated or a melody echoing through hallways in patterns that feel both familiar and unknowable. The inn preserves these temporal layers, blending them into a continuous presence that engages with each visitor uniquely. Despite the subtle unease, Whispering Waters Inn carries a quiet dignity. The figures, whispers, and small disturbances are never violent or malicious. They are observant and reflective, a reminder that the inn is inhabited by memory, attention, and presence. Guests often feel acknowledged rather than intruded upon, a sensation of being part of a story that stretches beyond their individual stay. Every sound, movement, and subtle alteration contributes to the narrative of a living space that remembers, responds, and quietly endures. By dawn, the activity recedes. Figures disappear. Whispers fade. And the river continues its steady course. Without indication of the night's phenomena. Rooms settle back into order. Appearing calm and ordinary once more. Yet the impressions remain. Etched into the awareness of those who have experienced the inn's subtle presence. Visitors leave with the knowledge that Whispering Waters Inn continues to observe. Quietly interacting with the night. And carrying its stories forward in the flow of the river. Whispering Waters Inn is more than a riverside retreat. It is a space where memory, presence, and the unseen converge. Guests depart with the understanding that the building listens, watches, and quietly engages with each visitor. Offering an experience that is immersive, contemplative, and unforgettable. The whispers, figures, and small disturbances serve as reminders of the enduring mysteries that inhabit spaces shaped by time, water, and the persistent presence of the past. Thank you for walking with me along the haunted riverside hotels of Mississippi. The river never sleeps, and neither do the whispers that linger in the walls. These hotels hold stories of the past, of lost souls and shadowy visitors who have never truly left. If you ever find yourself staying in a riverside hotel in Mississippi and hear whispers along the walls, remember these tales. Some voices are simply echoes of history, but others may be closer than you think. Will you stay the night, or leave before midnight? Rest well, my friend, until our next story.